think that people really care about being right or not. They just care about winning. So like being right is only like it's an afterthought that makes you feel better about winning, but it doesn't really matter. Like people, like at the end of the day, look at every animal. Why do animals kill each other? Because they want food. It was not the right thing to do for the lion to kill the gazelle. It's not the right thing to do for a lizard to eat a fly. It's just what they do. Because they want the food, that person is food, that thing is food, so they eat the food. That's it. Everything else outside of that is all like a fucking intellectualization of that primal desire. That's what I think.
The untested truths, spun by different interests, continue to churn and accumulate in the sandbox of political correctness and value systems.
Everyone withdraws into their own small gated community, afraid of a larger forum.
Well met.
Damn. Damn, what the fuck? Kojima, what the fuck? God damn, this is 2001? Oh my god.
They stay inside their little ponds, leaking whatever truth suits them into the growing cesspool of society at large.
The different cardinal truths neither clash nor mesh. No one is invalidated, but nobody is right.
Not even natural selection can take place here. The world is being engulfed in truth.
And this is the way the world ends. Not with a bang, but a whimper.
Yup.
As we saw in the 20th century, whether it is with Hitler's fascism or Stalin and Mao's communism, the ideologically possessed would rather kill millions in the name of their ideology rather than consider the arguments of their political opponents.
I disagree on that completely. I think that the reason why Stalin and Mao killed all those people was because they put them in danger. You kill those people because those people disagree with you, and they serve to put you at risk. Yeah, that's why they went to go kill them. It had nothing to do with an ideology. The ideology is the intellectualization of the power struggle.
This type of attitude in its nascent stages in the digital age, whether it's calling everybody who disagrees with you a racist, sexist, homophobic Nazi, or a West-hating communist, this attitude is pervasive throughout social media, forums, and comment sections. This type of inflammatory language has further polarized our political climate and has resulted in violent clashes. In the mind of the AI,
by the way, this video was 3 years ago it was made. It's gotten even worse now. I've read studies and
I'll do it here. This is easier.
That we insulate ourselves by staying inside our little ponds and casting all outsiders and dissidents as bad people. If this continues to happen, who knows what violent, oppressive future might manifest? Unlike the reality of MGS2, where a supposedly benevolent AI can make the hard decisions for us, our reality might become a sort of Orwellian nightmare.
We talked about this forever. I mean, the reason why 1984 and Animal Farm are so popular is because there is like an element of truth in what they do. There's a very big element of truth in the way that they're formed, everything like that. Yeah, it's already. And I will
try to solo this.
There are some people that are mad about this this video. I'll read some of these. People in the South equals racist, unpatriotic, and want to control women. This is gonna be long or just boring. It's not boring for you. You're mad because you're disagreeing with this. You're not bored. You're mad. Lynching in the South, another fine search. We need to nuke the whole South. We found the idiot. Well, at least he's got an accurate name. Dark Bulb. There's no light on anywhere here. Absolutely right. Followed 37 minutes ago. What an idiot. Okay, let's see here.
The AI wants to prevent.
We're trying to stop that from happening.
It's our responsibility as rulers. Just as in genetics, unnecessary information and memory must be filtered out to stimulate the evolution of the species.
And you think you're qualified to decide what's necessary and not?
Absolutely. Who else could wade through the sea of garbage you people produce, retrieve valuable truths, and even interpret their meaning for later generations?
There it is.
That's what it means to create context.
I want to remind you all that Metal Gear Solid 2 came out in 2001. This game was warning us about the advent of fake news, misinformation, and half-truths roughly 2 decades before the issue captured our collective attention.
Wow.
Worse yet, not only do the AIs describe a potentially dystopian future for both our reality and the reality of the game, but they also make us inadvertently realize that we currently have no constructive solution to the problem. The only tactic available at the moment is for individuals to strengthen their moral compass and call out misinformation where possible. However, given humanity's inherent imperfection, even the best of us
The problem with misinformation is that misinformation is often referred to, things are often referred to as misinformation whenever it is inconvenient. It's like, oh, well, this part is misinformation. Like, oh, this isn't really true. Or, oh, saying it this way or interpreting it this way is, oh, this is not really true. Yeah, I don't think so, guys. It's a buzzword. Yeah, it's 100%. It's a buzzword that makes people feel like they're justified to censor things.
Prone to mistakes. Worse yet,
Yeah.
instead of bolstering the best among us despite their mistakes, we will feverishly exacerbate the mistakes of our opponents for political gain. We see this quite vividly in what has been aptly termed call-out culture. For instance, it is thanks to this culture that there is no host for the Oscars this year. It is thanks to this
Kevin Hart.
culture that people will be fired from their job over a tweet they made 10 years ago. A person
Yeah, well, the call-out culture and stuff like that, I think the real problem is not really call-out culture. The problem is doxing and people going after each other in real life. That's really what the issue is there, because like calling out a tweet and saying that a tweet is bad is totally okay. It's the fact that people use the platforms to attack people in real life. That's where the issue is. So like, in my opinion, I think anybody who promotes this kind of stuff or engages in this kind of stuff, this should just be like an auto ban. Like, there's no way, like anytime that you try to like attack somebody in real life because of something they did online, I think this is a very bad thing.
might even be fired for a tweet that was taken out of context.
By attack in real life, you mean physical or getting them fired? I think both. Yeah, I think that both. Like, it's just better for social media and it's better for everybody if people can't do that.
When said person did nothing wrong whatsoever.
Yeah.
Worst of all, it is thanks to this culture that we will elect politicians not based on their ethics or policies, but on how effectively they can punch the other side. And let me
Well, it's also the reason why it's... I think people usually vote for politicians based off of how much they don't like the other side. That's it. Yo, Rex Strong, thanks for the 10,000 bits. I know you don't need this, but you've inspired so many small streamers like me, so I just want to say thank you. Have a good stream. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'm glad to help. Thank you very much. And I try to be... I don't know about inspiring. It's odd for me to hear that. It's kind of humbling in a bit. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And yeah, hate voting. Exactly. That's what it is. It's a game. Kojima didn't put this game just because he thought it was something he thought of. Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad you watched this. Yeah, I mean, I think this is a big issue. I think the reason why people vote for other people is they like them, or the accessibility of their ideas is very, very easy to understand. That's why somebody like, I think that the problem, a lot of people were mad at Donald Trump, not because he called people Lion Ted, Crooked Hillary, and fucking Sloppy Steve. They didn't get mad at Donald Trump because he did that. I think the real reason why they were mad is because it worked. It fucking worked. He went there and he used these fucking third grade insults, and he was calling people stupid, talking about how big his dick was on a national debate stage, and it worked. And that is a fucking reality check for a lot of people who don't think that that's what it really is. Because, yeah, it was entertaining. It was the truest truth out there. That's why it worked. How? Worked by making him the president. He won the election. He did not win the popular vote, keep in mind, but he did win the election. Yeah, so I think that's really what it is.
emphasize, we have no solution to this problem. In the reality of Metal Gear Solid 2, however, a hypothetical solution is presented. Because people abuse the responsibility that comes along with freedom of speech and expression, and would rather attack people than their ideas, a system that controls information must be set up, supposedly for our own good. The AI go into more detail regarding the solution as the conversation goes on.
Well, we do have a system for that. It's called the law. The problem is whenever people
Oh, I accidentally pinned it. Ignore that, because you still have to have Lutris running. Now, just click it.
However, that analysis...
That's what happens whenever somebody goes out of
and hit play.
Fired. And I know that some people might think, oh, well, it's good that people that are racist are getting fired. And it's like, yeah, I can see why you say that. But you have to keep in mind that, like, the only thing you have to do whenever you create a system to oppress people and to fucking shit on them and hurt them, the only thing you have to do for that system to be used on you is wait. Things always change. Things are always different than they were before. And the people that were in power will not be in power, and the people that are in power will not be in power in the future. That's what always happens. Don't open that door.
Have to be saved for the second part of this video. Thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. If you liked this video and understand the importance of the message I'm trying to convey, please share it around. Also, I implore you to check out Logo Steve's original video, The Most Profound Moment in Gaming. 9 years later, it is still my favorite YouTube video of all time, and I think you will get a lot of value out of it. If you want to see my other Metal Gear related content, please click on one of the videos you see on screen now. And hey, if you like that, maybe consider subscribing.
It is lit. See here, I'm gonna link it for you guys. Part 2? Is there a part 2? Okay, alright, we can watch the part 2 for it. Yeah, please give this guy a sub, give him a like.
Beautiful.
This is such a well-designed video. I think that, again, it's
beautiful.
So it is incredible, and at the same time, it is not quite as insane as you might imagine. Because back in, like, the early 2000s, again, there was so much popular media and social media. Not social media the way that we know it, but social media discussing the idea and the implications of, like, what really is AI. What is, like, the information age where people can just, like, go on the internet and say whatever they want. Like, it was very popular, whether it's Serial Experiments Lane, The Matrix, fucking, like, I think those are the two of them that just pop right into my head that explore that idea. And then also you had things like, you know, like Logan's Run, things like Clockwork Orange that had happened before then, Blade Runner, let's see, Soylent Green. A lot of these movies all kind of explore different shades of the same idea. Terminator, 12 Monkeys, 12 Monkeys, Bruce Willis going back in time. Kind of, yeah, I think so. Minority Report, yeah, but that was like way later. I'm talking about things that happened in the 2000s. Ghost in the Shell, yeah, that's why I said Ghost in the Shell is probably my favorite anime. I used to watch that all the time, every day it came out. Let's see, back over here, Dystopian Society movies. Yeah, there you go. And there's a great video game adaptation of I Have No Mouth and I'm a Scream. Truman Show? No, different. All right, we'll watch the second part of it. This is really good. I like this.
Before we continue, allow me to summarize the main arguments from part 1. The Patriot AI argues that in the internet age, the flow of information has become far too complex and grandiose. The natural outcome of this overabundance of information is that human beings, on account of their natural fallibility, are unable to separate factual and valuable information from information that is at best incomplete and at worst filled with outright lies. On account of our...
It is so funny that this literally fucking happened. Yeah, this actually happened on Twitter.
Tribal instincts, our political biases, our emotional fragility, and flawed intellect, we will potentially embrace information that conforms to our worldview best, rather than information that is true. In the era of fake news, this has undoubtedly been demonstrated as fact, as we build up echo chambers that confirm our political leanings and demonize those who express dissent. In response to the inherent truth of this argument, the AIs propose a frightening solution. Create a system that controls human will and consciousness. A system that compromises a human being's quote-unquote free will to come to their own conclusions. Though such a system is repulsive to myself and hopefully many of you, the AIs will demonstrate how human beings might abuse their freedom so much that such a system might be inevitable. Worse yet,
it's so exciting. I love this stuff because I feel like we are going to have the craziest next 30 years probably than ever before. It will be the most ridiculous shit that's going to happen.
Yet, they demonstrate how easily a system
It's
can
gonna
be
be so
implemented
fun.
without protest, as the main character Raiden so clearly proves.
I'll decide for myself what to believe and what to pass on.
But is that even your own idea?
Or something Snake told you.
That's the proof of your incompetence right there. You lack the qualifications to exercise free will.
Never in my life have I heard an insult as cutting and condescending. Put aside just for a second whether
That's
or not
good. Yeah, it
quote-unquote
is a good
free
one.
will is a valid concept. To say that somebody lacks the qualifications to
destroyed.
exercise free will suggests that their personality is entirely constructed by outside forces. For example, if you believe that abortion is an unethical practice, or an ethical practice, did you come to that conclusion yourself? Did you put together a bunch of arguments from opposing sides and decide for yourself what the
No, you just read the headline where it says abortion's bad, and then, you know, it was written by your favorite multi-billion-dollar corporation, so, I mean, they'd never do you wrong. I mean, shit. I mean, of course they're right. How do you think they made all that money? I mean, I mean, it's just that simple, guys.
best answer was? Or did you hear one person's argument and close yourself off to opposing arguments, much like an ideologue tends to do? In regards to Raiden, the AI goes on to demonstrate that he, like billions of people on the planet, tend to embrace ideas and actions not necessarily based on their adherence to truth, but rather based on how effectively they promote a certain way of being. This goes back to Nietzsche's famous—
I think a lot of people just have a viewpoint that is, it is just reinforcing their life. Like, that's it. A lot of people that are rich think that they are rich because they deserve it. A lot of people that are poor who think that they're poor because the system's out to get them. Why? Because it makes them feel better about where they're at. It's just that simple.
criticism of philosophers in Beyond Good and Evil. While philosophers might proclaim a desire for objective truth, they are more than likely trying to justify their worldview and way of life. This is why fake news exists. This is why echo chambers crop up all over the internet.
I don't like, I usually am not a big fan of that type of argumentation, because I feel like this is like onion argumentation, where like you can always find more layers to it. And it can also be applied to even the person who is applying the logic themselves. So it's like you're going into these like meta levels of biases without actually engaging in the ideas.
Despite the wealth of information available to us that should allow us to live in accordance with truth.
Yeah.
It is because living in accordance with truth and developing a sense of free will can be life-threatening. So people choose to embrace falsehoods in order to protect their sanity. Raiden then desperately protests that he is not a product of the mindless masses.
That's not true. I have the right.
Does something like a self exist inside of you?
That which you call self serves as nothing more than a mask to cover your own being.
In this era of ready-made truths, self is just something used to preserve those positive emotions that you occasionally feel.
Another possibility is that self is a concept you conveniently borrowed under the logic that it would endow you with some sense of strength.
That's crap.
Is it? Would you prefer that someone else tell you? All right then. Explain it to him.
Jack, you're simply the best. And you got there all by yourself.
Yep, there you go.
Up until this point in the game, Raiden and the player believed that their successes were achieved entirely by their own merit. However, the AI revealed that the entire mission was structured in a way so that Raiden would succeed as long as he obeyed orders. For Raiden to find out that he was not in fact a legendary mercenary but rather a clueless puppet that helped enslave the world is bad enough. However, it is when the AI offers the more ideal fiction to Raiden that he is simply the best that the insult has its greatest effect. Raiden cringes and holds back a scream because he sees the truth inherent in the AI's argument. That argument being that Raiden is not his own person. His actions and emotions are all controlled by a higher power. He's not Raiden. He's not even Jack. He's something else's creation. The AI then go on to show how Raiden's lack of self is endemic to billions of people.
Oh, what happened?
I think this is something that's generally true with a lot of things. Like, for example, again, you have a lot of people that are rich who think that it's because they worked really hard. People that are poor think it's because they're lucky. Like, that's just what happens. And this is like the eternal struggle of people trying to justify what they have. And I think this is a huge problem that people have. This is, I think, a big issue that, like, people have to find a way to justify why they are in a place they are. Eon is not lucky.
Luckily, I don't know how. Shit should have respawned on me.
Lucky is that lucky is not something that just refers to somebody's, you know, the consequences that they have.
That's on the last, like,
obvious.
15 minutes of this.
Other things that
Click on one of the videos you see on screen
is
now.
so good.
And hey, if you like that, maybe consider subscribing.
It is insults, and he was calling people stupid, talking about how big his dick was on a
Conversation goes on.
Well, we do have a system for that. It's called the law. The problem is whenever people think that they are beyond the law and they can enforce their own justice that extends beyond that.
However, that
That's
analysis...
That's fine.
Somebody goes out of their way to get somebody fired. And I know that some people might think, oh, well, it's good that people that are racist are getting fired. And it's like, yeah, I can see why you say that. But you have to keep in mind that, like, the only thing you have to do, whenever you create a system to oppress people and to fucking shit on them and hurt them, the only thing you have to do for that system to be used on you is wait. Things always change. Things are always different than they were before. And the people that were in power will not be in power, and the people that are in power will not be in power in the future. That's what always happens. Don't open that door.
There's Horde or somebody in here.
Second part of this video. Thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. If you liked this video and understand the importance of the message I'm trying to convey, please share it around. Also, I implore you to check out Logo Steve's original video, The Most Profound Moment in Gaming. 9 years later, it is still my favorite YouTube video of all time, and I think you will get a lot of value out of it. If you want to see my other Metal Gear related content, please click on one of the videos you see on screen now. And hey, if you like that, maybe consider subscribing.
It is lit. You see here? I'm gonna link it for you guys. Part 2? Is there a part 2? Okay, alright, we can watch the part 2 for it. Yeah, please give this guy a sub, give him a like. This is such a well-designed video. I think that, again, it's so incredible. It is incredible, and at the same time, it is not quite as insane as you might imagine, because back in, like, the early 2000s, again, there was so much popular media and social media. Not social media the way that we know it, but social media discussing the idea and the implications of, like, what really is AI. What is, like, the information age where people can just, like, go on the internet and say whatever they want. Like, it was very popular, whether it's Serial Experiments Lane, The Matrix, fucking, like, I think those are the two of them that just popped right into my head that explore that idea. And then also you had things like, you know, like Logan's Run, things like Clockwork Orange that had happened before then, Blade Runner, let's see, Soylent Green. A lot of these movies all kind of explore different shades of the same idea. Terminator, 12 Monkeys, 12 Monkeys, Bruce Willis going back in time. Kind of, yeah, I think so. Minority Report, yeah, but that was like way later. I'm talking about things that happened in the 2000s. Ghost in the Shell, yeah, that's why I said Ghost in the Shell is probably my favorite anime. I used to watch that all the time, every day it came out. Let's see, back over here, Dystopian Society movies. Yeah, there you go. And there's a great video game adaptation of I Have No Mouth and I'm a Scream. Truman Show? No, different. All right, we'll watch the second part of it. This is really good. I like this.
Before we continue, allow me to summarize the main arguments from part 1. The Patriot AI argues that in the internet age, the flow of information has become far too complex and grandiose. The natural outcome of this overabundance of information is that human beings, on account of their natural fallibility, are unable to
separate go to the North Common Hall, don't I?
Information from information that is at best incomplete and at worst filled with outright lies. On account of our...
It is so funny that this literally fucking happened. Yeah, this actually happened on Twitter.
I don't know if the North Common Hall's in the dungeon or what, but this isn't the right place.
And flawed intellect, we will potentially embrace information that conforms to our worldview best, rather than information that is true. In the era of fake news, this has undoubtedly been demonstrated as fact, as we build up echo chambers that confirm our political leanings and demonize those who express dissent. In response to the inherent truth of this argument, the AIs propose a frightening solution. Create a system that controls human will will and consciousness, a system that compromises a human being's quote-unquote free will to come to their own conclusions. Though such a system is repulsive to myself and hopefully many of you, the AIs will demonstrate how human beings might abuse their freedom so much that such a system might be inevitable. Worse yet,
I think I might try a two-man this dungeon just to get what I need for this quest.
The craziest next 30 years, probably than ever before. It will be the most
just gonna run for it.
Shit that's gonna happen.
Yet, they demonstrate how easily a system can be implemented without protest, as the main character Raiden so clearly proves.
I'll decide for myself what to believe and what to pass on.
But is that even your own idea?
Or something Snake told you?
That's the proof of your incompetence right there. You lack the qualifications to exercise free will.
Never in my life have I heard an insult as cutting and condescending. Put aside just for a second whether or not quote-unquote free will is a valid concept. To say that somebody lacks the qualifications to exercise free will suggests that their personality is entirely constructed by outside forces. For example, if you
let me make sure I'm going the right direction.
Unethical practice, or an ethical practice, did you come to that conclusion yourself? Did you put together a bunch of arguments from opposing sides and decide for yourself what the—
No, you just read the headline where it says abortion's bad, and then, you know, it was written by your favorite multi-billion-dollar corporation, so, I mean, they'd never do you wrong. I mean, shit. I mean, of course they're right. How do you think they made all that money? I mean, I mean, it's just that simple, guys.
No.
Best answer was? Or did you hear one person's argument and close yourself off to opposing arguments, much like an ideologue tends to do? In regards to Raiden, the AI goes on to demonstrate that he, like billions of people on the planet, tend to embrace ideas and actions not necessarily based on their adherence to truth, but rather based on how effectively they promote a certain way of being.
Under the
this
tunnel.
goes back to Nietzsche's famous—
I think a lot of people just have that is, it is just reinforcing their life. Like, that's it. A lot of people that are rich think that they are rich because they deserve it.
Oh, so it was that way. That wasn't even north, though. That was further south. That doesn't make any sense.
Why? Because it makes them feel better about where they're at. It's just that simple.
Criticism of philosophers in Beyond Good and Evil. While philosophers might proclaim a desire for objective truth, they are more than likely trying to justify their worldview and way of life. This is why fake news exists. This is why echo chambers crop up all over the internet.
I usually am not a big fan of that type of argumentation, because I feel like this is like onion argumentation, where like you can always find more layers to it. And it can also be applied to even the person who is applying the logic themselves. So it's like you're going into these like meta levels of biases without actually engaging in the ideas.
Despite the wealth of information available to us that should allow us to live in accordance with truth. Yeah. It is because living in accordance with truth and developing a sense of free will can be life-threatening. So people choose to embrace falsehoods in order to protect their sanity. Raiden then desperately protests that he is not a product of the mindless masses.
That's not true. I have the right.
Does something like a self exist inside of you?
That which you call self serves as nothing more than a mask to cover your own being.
In this era of ready-made truths, self is just something used to preserve those positive emotions that you occasionally feel.
Another possibility is that self is a concept you conveniently borrowed under the logic that would endow you with some sense of strength.
That's crap!
Is it? Would you prefer that someone else tell you? All right, then. Explain it to him.
Jack, you're simply the best. And you got there all by yourself.
Yep, there you go.
Up until this point in the game, Raiden and the player believed that their successes were achieved entirely by their own merit. However, the AI revealed that the entire mission was structured in a way so that Raiden would succeed as long as he obeyed orders. For Raiden to find out that he was not in fact a legendary mercenary but rather a clueless puppet that helped enslave the world is bad enough. However, it is when the AI offers the more ideal fiction to Raiden that he is simply the best that the insult has its greatest greatest effect. Raiden cringes and holds back a scream because he sees the truth inherent in the AI's argument. That argument being that Raiden is not his own person. His actions and emotions are all controlled by a higher power. He's not Raiden. He's not even Jack. He's something else's creation. The AI then go on to show how Raiden's lack of self is endemic to billions of people.
Oh, what happened?
I think this is something that's generally true with a lot of things. Like, for example, again, you have a lot of people that are rich who think that it's because they worked really hard. People that are poor think it's because they're lucky. Like, that's just what happens. And this is like the eternal struggle of people trying to justify what they have. And I think this is a huge problem that people have. This is, I think, a big issue that, like, people have to find a way to justify why they are in a place they are. Elon was not lucky. What I think people don't understand with the word lucky is that lucky is not something that just refers to somebody's, you know, the consequences that they have at birth, you know, things that are obvious. I think there's a lot of other things that, like, you never really think about. Like, you have spawn RNG. If you're born in Nigeria, you've got a worse chance at things than if you're born in, like, let's say Switzerland. Okay, like, that's just the way things go. If you're born in China, you're probably going to have a much harder time being able to express yourself and be a political activist than if you're born in Portland, Oregon. That's the way things go. Also, like, there are people, like, I think that in general, there are different dispositions that people have. Some people are better at reading than others. Some people are better at math than others. Their just brain thinks and works a different way. So whenever you narrow down somebody's advantages to, like, oh, their parents or something like that, I think this is a very narrow way of looking at it.
Oh, yeah?
For example, I got very lucky with a lot of things. For example, you know, I'm not massively overweight. I'm not sick. My parents were both, you know, college educated. I'm relatively decent at talking. All of these things are not things that every single other person has access to. They're things that I have access to because I seem to get lucky. Also, I got the internet very early on. I was on the internet very, very early on. These are all things that made me lucky. There's a billion people in the world right now that don't have the internet. Every single one of you guys is luckier than they are. But there's always a conversation of, like, how much of somebody's success or how much of who they are is actually them, and how much of who they are is actually the reflection of something else. You see what I'm saying?
Do you feel lost? Why not try a bit of soul searching?
Don't think you'll find anything, though.
Ironic that although self is something that you yourself fashion, every time something goes wrong, you turn around and place the blame on something else.
It's not my fault. It's not your fault.
It is what it is.
You simply resort to looking for another, more convenient truth in order to make yourself feel better.
Leaving.
This is, yeah, that's what I said. Like, this is what I thought with the fucking all that Kanye West shit. Like, oh, it's the Jews. Oh, it's the Jews. The Jews are doing this. Because it's very easy to go and blame another group of people because, you know, your life isn't in a good position. It's so dumb.
Woman,
I see a lot of these people.
you're not fighting anything, pause.
Once again, the AI demonstrate how people will gravitate to quote-unquote
Also, your sword's
truths,
broken.
not because they are based entirely on
Repair
empirical fact,
your
but
damn
because
sword.
they satisfy the instinctual need for structure and stability.
first get me a
For
beer.
argument's sake, let's imagine somebody who has spent half their life advocating a belief that the Earth was flat, that the government wants people to believe it is round for territorial reasons.
Yes.
Let's say the flat earther is presented conclusive information that proves the Earth is round. If they accept that they were wrong,
That's fine.
that would mean they spent over half
She likes to
their life
graze.
advocating
Let her
false
graze.
truths and manipulating impressionable minds.
That's right.
What toll
Oh, yeah?
would that realization take upon their soul? If they don't accept that they were wrong, they will accept a more convenient truth to protect their emotional persona. Such a truth might be that the evidence presented to them was doctored, and that the person presenting the information is a government shill. This
Yeah, it's
behavior
actually-
extends not just to conspiracy.
Yeah, it's actually the government wants you to think that it's flat, but it's actually round because they actually have a space base on the moon that controls your brain. But they want you to think it's flat so you don't think the moon is real. Yeah, there's, like, again, more layers to this.
theories,
Oh, there it
but
is.
anybody with a political position. This is the reason why millions of people continue to advocate for political systems despite their proven track record of killing millions of people. This is why people still uphold certain...
I would argue that every political system kills millions of people because the political system doesn't kill millions of people. People kill millions of people. They've done it for all of history. People have killed millions of people.
superstitious beliefs despite their scientific invalidity. This behavior is not relegated to a few irrational individuals. It's something that everybody does, regardless of their political position. I do it, and you do it. And worst of all, in a democracy, the emotionally fragile have a say in what is truth, which the AI shall now criticize.
Warrior is
This
pretty
is
good,
absolutely
actually.
true. Yeah, people that get upset about something or offended over something, and now everybody has to walk around with fucking padded rooms or padded suits around them because we don't want to accidentally offend them. No, I think that the problem really is that too many people in the world live their life like the biggest fear that they have is shame or guilt. Like that's what they're really afraid of, is getting embarrassed or being shamed or
Thank
being
you.
guilt
Beautiful.
for doing
You're
something
welcome,
bad.
handsome. Here's
And
some
I think
tits.
that's why people hold on to stupid ideas, is that it makes them feel guilty or shame or something like that. That's one of the worst things. I think that's how people control themselves. It's not because they have it's not an emotional thing. It's that they don't want to feel shame or guilt. Because if you don't feel those things, it doesn't matter to you. It's fine.
Should someone like that be able to decide what is truth?
Should someone like you even have the right to decide?
You've done nothing but abuse your freedom.
You don't deserve to be free.
We're not the ones smothering the world. You are.
Because the AIs grew out of the White House's quote-unquote primordial soup, they recognize the inherent value of freedom and the responsibility that comes along with it. In their mind, Raiden and billions like him take all the benefits of freedom without accepting any of the responsibility that comes along with it. Instead of using their freedom to seek out
That's
truth...
like people that go around, they eat a bunch of food, they're 600 pounds, and then they die. Yep. You can do that. Wouldn't
Strathome
recommend it,
run? What level are you?
but you could do that. Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, no, there's plenty of people that do that. It's
I got
same with people
31
that do drugs
fucking
and shit
dudes
like
in my
that.
guild now.
They get really into, they drink alcohol, they become alcoholics, shit like this. It's the way it goes. Absolutely. People don't know what to do whenever they have decisions. Whenever they can choose to do something good or bad, they'll just do something bad.
that foster the human race, they resort to partisanship and ideology to make sense of the world. Instead of being introspective and
Smoke
considering the
cigarettes, yeah.
potential faults in one's position, they will cast the blame elsewhere. The result of this is stagnation, and soon afterwards, violence. This extends not just to our leaders, but to ourselves.
I'm
The
pretty sure he
individual
was
is
over here
supposed to be
somewhere.
weak, but far from powerless. A single person has the potential to ruin the world.
And the age of digitized communication has given even more power to the individual. Too much power for an immature species.
Building a legacy involves figuring out what is wanted and what needs to be done for that goal. All this you used to struggle with. Now we think for you.
That's
We
nice.
are your guardians, after all.
You want to control human thought, human behavior?
Of course. Anything can be quantified nowadays.
At this juncture, I feel the need to repeat something I said in the first video.
That's
I am
so
not
good.
for censorship or controlling information whatsoever. I think the ultimate conclusion that the AIs come to is wrong. Even if they were right, I am certainly not giving up the ability to control my own life and make my own decisions. But put aside their conclusion and consider whether or not their arguments are wrong. Do human beings consume fake news and accept it as truth? Do billions of people hold beliefs that are objectively wrong? Can
Yeah.
ideologues and fundamentalists negatively influence our societies? If the 20th century...
I love how, you know what a really great example of this is astrology. There are so many people who unironically believe in astrology. I can't even believe that they believe in it. But they're out there oh my god. And it's in my opinion, if you believe something that has no evidence and there's no fucking proof of this, it's not, quantifiable through the scientific method, nobody should be under any obligation to respect it at all. Absolutely not. It's fucking stupid.
Is any indication, it only takes one bad idea, and maybe even one bad person to ruin the world. In the social media age, this ruination becomes all the more likely, as almost anybody can build up a large enough following to influence millions of minds. They don't even need a large following. They could just covertly produce a system like the one the AIs are proposing. And when AI inevitably comes to be, maybe our reality could see its reflection in the reality of Metal Gear Solid 2. For the sake of time and brevity, I will skip over the next few minutes of this conversation. They are basically a retread of what has already been discussed. Before I play the final clip, I wish to summarize what the AI accomplished. They created a scenario where Raiden, and by extension the player, had to obey several different orders from their commanding officer. It did not matter if many of those orders seemed unjustifiable. What mattered to Raiden and the gamer was being able to live out a fantasy as a legendary mercenary. That emotional desire was so strong that it prevented any form of rationality. This emotional desire overcoming rationality is reflective of many different situations in our everyday lives. We see it in our newsfeed.
I actually think this is something that's true with video games in themselves. I think that this is like a meta level, because the individual player, like, there's a lot of people that get satisfaction out of beating video games. I used to get a lot of satisfaction out of beating video games. Now I don't anymore. It's good that I did it. Like, yeah, it's good. But every video game is programmed to lose. The game is programmed for you to beat it. And whenever you beat somebody in a game, or you beat the game, you were programmed to win. Like, that's it. So it's sad that feeling goes. It's not sad, because what it means is that there's a, like, let me think of a way to put it. Like, you don't have your identity built up based off of your success and things that were programmed for you to succeed in. I think this is a
There's more quests over here, if I remember right. Yep.
On our social media, and even in our own actions. Unlike human beings, AI are not prone to emotion. For this reason, the AIs feel they are the saviors of humankind. They will control thought so human beings may live in blissful ignorance,
donations.
and the AIs no longer have to tolerate mass stupidity. In their victory, the AI mocks Raiden for his various faults.
So you see, you're a perfect representative of the masses we need to protect. This is why we chose you. You accepted the fiction we've provided, obeyed our orders, and did everything you were told to. The exercise is a resounding success.
Didn't I tell you the GW was still incomplete? But not anymore, thanks to you.
Your persona, experiences, triumphs, and defeats are nothing but byproducts. The real objective was ensuring that we could generate and manipulate them. It's taken a lot.
Again, you can apply this exact same language to the video game itself. I think that's what's really cool about this too.
Of time and money, but it was well worth it considering the results.
Yeah, think about that.
Is this our future? If we have no systemic solution to the problem of fake news, and we continue to drown in overflowing information, what will our society become? This video game, not a book, not a movie, a video game, so eloquently explained the impossibility of this problem roughly 2 decades before it reached public consciousness. The fact that it was all done within this 15-minute conversation makes it truly the most profound moment in gaming history. It is a moment that has haunted me for decades, specifically because of how it makes a pessimistic future seem so certain. I figured that any solution, no matter how ineffective it may seem, would be better than to let Kojima's nightmare come to pass. As
This
I briefly referenced in the
quest.
first video, there is one thing that can be
Yeah,
done.
we can do this one.
Rediscover the power that an individual holds. If a single person has the potential to ruin the world, a single person has the potential to save it. I hold no delusions of grandeur for myself, but I know that there is strength in numbers. If enough people wake up to the complex problem of misinformation,
What the hell? I can't get out of
half-truths
here?
and fake news, and do everything in their power to live in accordance with fact rather than tribalistic instinct, we will
Never gonna happen.
most certainly survive. But even better than that, we will be able to preserve our freedom for the coming generations. The power is in your hands.
Yep, not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. Not a chance. Ooh, not a chance. I gotta go ahead and link to you guys this video. This is such a good video. I love it, man. It is so well done. It's so well put together. And I think it's like, I love watching videos like this because I think that they are genuinely interesting. Yeah, these are so good. We're fucked. No, people have lost their fucking minds, man. With like the internet, COVID, like now everybody's at home. They're constantly like getting bombarded with news that are making them angry. You're like, oh man, what the fuck is this song? And like you click on, like I have a one that's called Soundhound, and like so I click on these songs.
I love all the stuff that he produces. This one video alone about how he got views to a secret channel that he created is a masterclass in how digital platforms reward smart people who work hard and think critically. He is a really smart, really creative dude. I highly recommend.
That was a great video. I don't think I ever watched that one.
Streamer with the highest all-time concurrent subscriber count on Twitch, gaining nearly a 250,000 subscribers in a month thanks to a continuous live stream of his life where each new sub extended the length of the stream by 10 seconds.
Yo guys, Punk out another video.
Rating in Classic versus rating in Retail WoW.
World of Warcraft has been out for a very long time. There have been hundreds and hundreds of changes to the game, but there's one aspect that has remained an important part of Endgame, and that's rating.
Oh, I don't know about that in Retail. Okay. Okay.
Since the game's inception, there has always been a point to gather all your friends together and throw yourselves at giant bosses for hours and hours in hopes of getting some fancy new gear.
True.
Despite raiding being a core concept of the game, you'd be surprised how much it's changed. I mean, after saving the world 44 times, there needs to be some sort of innovation to keep it interesting. These radical changes that raiding has gone through has never been more apparent than now that Classic WoW is out. So let's compare, contrast, critique, and criticize what it's like to raid in Classic WoW and the modern version of the game.
Okay. Seems like a good...
Burning! Burning!
Okay, so before we
start,
not getting in let me preface by saying that when I talk about retail raiding, I mean normal, heroic, and mythic. I'm not talking about LFR because it's just far too easy and is just
a joke-ass bullshit game.
Also, since my channel is about Classic, it might seem like I have a hardcore Classic bias, but I actually really enjoy raiding in Retail, and it's basically the only reason why I still play Retail. Okay, now with all that nonsense out of the way, let's actually talk about some raiding.
Okay.
Before we start raiding, well, we're gonna have to get to the raid, and we can already find distinct differences between the two games. In Classic, getting to the raid is an event in itself. Typically, your whole guild will group up in one big death ball before traveling to the instance. This is because you might want to get the Onyxia buff at your main city, or any other world buffs, or because you're on a PvP server, and entering Blackrock Mountain alone opens you up to being jumped by the opposite faction. So
I think that's cool. Like in Classic WoW, like the fact that that kind of happens organically is really fucking cool. Like I don't know, I just really like it a lot. I think it's one of the cool things that the game has that they've done. Yeah, it's a sense of community. Well, it's something that happens. It's not like Blizzard makes this happen. It's what players do, and it's how the game has evolved. And I think it's just really cool to see like all 40 people coming into the raid all at the same time. I think it's awesome.
You gotta roll out with your whole guild, cranking Led Zeppelin as you kill anything in your path on the way to the entrance. Oh god, here they come! In the modern game, it's a lot more streamlined. As of recording this, you get to the current raid by taking a portal from your main city and then flying to the entrance of the raid. The addition of summoning stones also really helps because everybody has that one guy that shows up 5 minutes late every raid night. That guy.
That's me. That's me. That's what I would do all the time. You show up 5 minutes late to a boss you don't want to show up for, or you wait for them to set groups and you join. You're like, oh, I'm here, guys. Like, oh, you don't need me? Okay, bye. You know, and that's it.
I used to do the exact same shit, you know? And I think in retail WoW, right? What do you do to get into a city? Simple. You join a group and you wait for a summon. If they don't summon you, fuck it, dude. Quit that group. Join another group. Who cares?
Well, you can summon people in Classic.
Yeah.
It takes up a Warlock Soul Shard, and you can't summon people outside of the raid into the raid.
That's the big one.
So let's say you're at Ragnaros and you need to summon a new player.
They
you're
have
gonna
to
run
zone in.
all the way back out of the instance to summon them. So when comparing the two, in the modern version of the game, traveling to the raid is an afterthought that makes little to no difference, while in Classic, it's an important hurdle you need to jump to start raiding because, well, you need to travel to the raid to start killing bosses.
Yeah, it takes like 20 minutes to do that.
Okay, so now that we're at the raid, let's
It's
talk
insane.
about the raids themselves.
Okay.
The obvious thing to mention is Classic has attunements, basically meaning quests that you're required to do to get into the instance. This can be a hump your guild needs to get over before you even start killing bosses.
Okay.
And for Molten Core, there's an additional hurdle you need to get over, which is getting the water to douse the runes in the raid to fight the final boss.
Just doing the raid is hard in Classic. Like, that's the thing, is like just doing, it's like getting through, just getting in there is a pain in the ass. Whereas like in retail WoW, it's like a fucking lighted red carpet. Please come down here and join the raid. Oh boy, come on, come on, come on. Everyone's invited, you know, and that kind of shit, right? But with Classic, man, there's like all these different ways you can fuck it up. There's all these different ways, like, oh, there's a raid lockouts and everything like that. I'm sorry, I just can't fucking get behind it. I don't like it. I think that making the raids hard to get into makes them so much fucking better, man. It just does. It feels better to be in the raid after you know that you put a lot of effort trying to get into it in the first place.
This involves a select few raiders grinding elementals for hours, and you don't want to forget to do this like some streamers.
It's because somebody has a fucking rep to do Major Domo. Shit! We can't even kill Rob. Son of a fucking...
Trash also plays a big part of raids in Classic, to the point...
Okay. Here's the thing. I have that. I don't need that. I did that on purpose. I was worried that our group was so unprepared and not ready that we wouldn't kill the boss. And so I intentionally didn't summon the last two bosses or prepare for it, so that we wouldn't have to face the disappointment of it in order to preserve the group's morale. And I took the fault on myself. You can cap that all you want, but that's what it was.
Where Trash is far more difficult than the actual bosses, and you'll spend a majority of your time killing Trash rather than bosses. There are some butt-clenching Trash pulls in Classic because they can go south really quickly, and wiping wastes a lot of time. If you wipe, you have to make sure one of your healers has a soul stone or any other type of wipe protection, and then they'll slowly res everybody.
And it's like a 10-minute fucking break while everybody gets res back up.
And this whole process probably takes like 7 to 10 minutes. Attunements and getting water and all this stuff, none of this applies to Retail WoW. You can just zone in and start clearing without a care in the world. Trash in Retail WoW can be difficult, but it's more or less just used as buffers between boss pulls. I will give them credit though, using Trash to highlight certain mechanics for the upcoming boss is a very cool concept and something I hope they continue to do in the future.
I always forget about this. Like, you're just completely right. Like, having trash mobs in Retail WoW that use the mechanics that bosses have, that you're fighting the trash up to the boss, and then the trash uses the mechanics that the boss is going to have. I like that a lot. That's a great way for Blizzard to handle things.
Also, wiping basically has no effect in Retail WoW. You just spawn right in front of the boss once again.
Yep.
But hey, we are raiding just to kill some trash mobs, so let's talk about some bosses.
Okay.
This is my raid,
child. Not so much as a single spell can be cast in Nazjatar without my knowledge.
Difficulty is created in two totally different ways between these games.
Okay.
Classic's difficulty comes from the prep and organization, and Retail WoW's difficulty comes from the mechanical skill and the individual responsibility of players.
That's the one that I hate. The individual responsibility part. That's what makes retail raids hard. Is that individual responsibility. Any fight that emphasizes individual responsibility is hard. Star Augur, Elisand, Gul'dan, Kill Jaden, Fallen Avatar. These fights are hard because one person who's stupid can ruin it for the whole raid. It's not about getting carried. It's about the fact that you can have one person mess it up. If you've done Star Augur on progression back in Nighthold, you would know that almost every single person probably made at least 1 or 2 mistakes on Grand Conjunction, right? They probably ran into the wrong spot. They probably did something stupid. So, or they died with the debuff, or something bad happened where they weren't able to do it. The fact is that it just creates, like, it's really annoying, right? It's really fucking annoying more than anything. I hate the individual responsibility fights. They're the most stressful and unfun thing for me in retail WoW.
In other words, classic difficulty comes from before the poll, and retail WoW difficulty comes from the actual boss fight.
Exactly. I think that's probably the best distinction that you could ever draw. Like, I've said that exactly myself before, so I totally agree.
Prep is a big part of classic WoW. Dealing with 40 people is not an easy task, and a lot of moving cogs need to be working in order for it to be efficient.
It's actually... Sorry, I had to mute for a second.
You've got a raid leader calling out plays and
That's
leading
me.
a group to victory.
That's
and
me.
Class leaders managing who does what for each class.
Yep.
You also need to assign healers to heal specific people.
Yep.
And you need a couple of competent tanks. And lastly, you need some DPS, all needing to focus a specific enemy at times and to make sure they're not pulling threat. And to top that all off, you have some bosses that have a couple of mechanics that are easy in theory, but with 40 people, there's bound to be some errors. What the fuck? But if all these cogs in your raid team are working, well, raiding is easy. It's stupid easy.
Yep.
You gotta keep in mind that this content was made 15 years ago. 15 years ago, people had crappy computers. 15 years ago, their internet sucked. And 15 years ago, they sucked at the game.
Yeah.
And I don't even think I was potty trained yet. There's also an argument to be made that difficulty of classic raids comes from clearing it as fast as possible. No matter what part of classic you're in, every
I'm pretty
raid
sure I
is
turned
going to
left
be
now.
useful in some sort of way, so guilds should try and clear every raid every week.
That's what
if
I'm
you're
gonna do.
slow in this process, you're going to be raiding every night, so for a guild, the challenge
You have
comes
nothing
from
better to
speed
do.
clearing these raids. Compare this to retail, where you can literally raid with 10 people for heroic and normal difficulties. The truth is, having a small and flexible raid roster makes the organization of a raid team a lot easier.
Of course. I mean, like, if the fights were as easy as they were in Classic and you only needed 10 people to do them, there would just be a joke. I mean, like, oh, it's 3 mechanics that you have to deal with. Like, yeah, of course they have to add more mechanics. Like, you take away players, you have to add more mechanics, or the difficulty in having more people goes away.
Yeah, this isn't end vanilla at all.
Even in Mythic, getting 20 people together is much easier than 40.
Yeah,
I
of
believe
course.
where the strength and difficulty comes from retail raiding is the boss fights. They've had 15 years to perfect this aspect of the game.
Oh, fuck
Say what you will
you.
about retail WoW, trust me, I don't really like it either, but raiding has always been amazing. Even in the bad expansion, raids are still really good. Hell, Blackrock Foundry
Top
is my
5.
all-time favorite raid, and Black Hand is easily, hands down, the best fight I've ever done.
I can guarantee you this guy did not play a melee class. And if he did, it was a rogue. Fuck Blackhand. Okay? Absolutely, completely, 100% fuck Blackhand. I hated this goddamn fight. Yeah, he was for you back whenever we went through it halfway through and, you know, everybody had a ton of gear and you just got carried. Yeah, it was
No, I did
really
it as progression, man.
Oh, okay.
I rated.
Okay.
Oh, you're so kind.
Blizzard has continued to push the boundaries to make some very cool
Dogar was
and
awesome.
interesting fights.
Yeah, Blackrock
every
Foundry is
tier,
fucking
and
amazing.
I
I'm gonna
love
die
it.
here, probably.
The personal responsibility of a player is far greater in retail raiding because of the smaller raid size and the abundance of mechanics during boss fights.
Very accurate.
Combat is much more faster paced because of all this stuff going on during the boss fight. And gameplay for each class is much more involved. I've mainly been focusing on Molten Core since it's the current raid in Classic as of recording this, but it's true that some bosses later in Classic's lifespan can be a bit difficult, but it's nowhere near the polish retail WoW has with their encounters.
Yeah, of
and again,
course.
remember, this content is as
completely different.
old as dirt, so this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. I mean, look at this footage. I can literally count the pixels on this. So we've talked about travel, trash, bosses, but it's time to talk about why we're all here, and that's for those Professor Plums, baby. Despite being a 40-man raid, classic raids barely drop any gear. And I'm talking only a small handful of items for each boss. This makes the gearing process a lot slower, but a lot more impactful.
Dude. Unless you're
in
a
most scenarios, raid gear is the best gear in the game, so when you finally equipped it, you're on cloud 9, and you look like a badass.
He's very happy.
There's no transmog in Classic. When people see you in the main city with all that gear, they're gonna know you're the real deal. So not only is there a raw statistics progression of your character, but there's also a cosmetic progression of your character. And like it or not, people like being pretty. In retail, progression of your character. And like it or not, people...
There it is. I've said this forever. Cosmetic progression matters just as much as actual
Ooh, what's in the slimy bag?
If you can go to the
city,
but only if it correlates to character progression. If it doesn't correlate to character progression, it doesn't matter, right? But if you have cosmetic progression that correlates to your character's progression, and so like the more badass your character is, the more badass your character looks, that is the perfect fucking thing to have.
People like being pretty. In retail, there is an overabundance of gear. You can get gear from multiple different avenues of the game, and that with the addition of Titan Forging makes all these purple items you collect just this blur of gear. I'll be honest, I cannot name you one piece of gear I have on my character.
Alright, I gotta get some guild mates together here.
Don't I have the 7th Legionnaire's Claymore? And I have Gatuku, right? I think for my weapons. I have the Heart of Azeroth, that's right. Oh yeah, and I have the Coral Trinket.
You need to be promoted.
I think I have a Cloak from Oragoza. Yeah.
I could list every single item for you because it was a momentous occasion when I finally got it. Having a clear best in slot item is a lot more compelling, to me at least, rather than a hodgepodge of items that I hope get Titan Forged.
I agree.
Okay, now with all that information I just spewed at you, let's summarize the positives and negative aspects of raiding in each game. For Classic, it's a huge time investment to be constantly in a raid team. It's not very convenient, and the bosses are simple and can be pretty easy, but gear is a lot more rewarding, and you're in a larger community, and truly, you're a part of something bigger.
You're a part of something bigger than yourself. I need to take a piss, guys. I'm sorry. I'll be right back. Classic, yeah, that's what it's about.
Pay attention to Asmon's eyebrows.
Yeah, we good.
Retail, raiding is a lot more streamlined and easy to get into. It constantly has new and interesting bosses, faster paced mechanics, but the gear leaves something to be desired.
Yeah, gear sucks. It's a waste of time.
Both of the
rewards to raiding and retail suck. That's why people don't do it. If the rewards to raiding... What's wrong with the eyebrows? Like... What the... Are you talking about his? Like the bald guy? I'm so confused here. Well, it doesn't matter. Anyway, in general, a caveman, yeah, what the fuck? Your eyebrow. Okay. Anyway, let's see here. I don't know. I forgot even what I was going to say. It distracted me.
These games have their positives and their negatives, but at the end of the day, I love them both, and you should too.
Die, insect.
Shit.
I love you.
Nice try, Ragnaros. I don't know about this, dude.
Ooh-wee, okay.
Yeah, I don't know about that, man. Okay, alright.
Thank you to my patrons. People like Steel, McSpacitron, Milwaukee,
doing a joke? You're watching eyebrows? Okay. Alright, I guess.
Ian McNeil, Happy Tron, Lion Sucks, Forta Horde, Gurku Blue Moon, Master Hand, Fishy Lawn Gnome,
It sounds like he's reading donations.
Ghetto, Raw Maxim, and Vlad Rebella. Oh my god. There's a lot of you guys now. And all these other people too. Hey guys, thank you so much.
Goodbye.
More
Decent
videos coming this month. Stay tuned, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.
I think this video is pretty fair. I don't know about you guys, but I agree with it in general. Like, I don't know. I just think it's a pretty good analysis and dichotomy of the difference between, like, classic and, like, retail raids. The main issue, right, is that, like, classic raids, like, I think what he's saying here is, right, is, like, the difficulty in classic raids occurs outside of the raid. The difficulty in retail raids occurs inside of the raid. In classic, just getting 40 people to show up is hard. Just getting people to do all the mechanics in retail is hard because the mechanics in themselves are hard. The other thing in retail that you forget about is the fact that the mechanics on these bosses, like, it's not like, let's look at, like, what was he doing? He's doing this fight right here, right? What do you really, all right, this is actually the easiest fight in a fucking dungeon. But, like, let's just use this as an example. There is almost, saying what everyone's saying for the past year, it isn't new. No, it wasn't really new. But the point that I'm making is still the same. The other thing with retail WoW is that the rotations are a lot more complicated. The rotations are way more fucking complicated. And that's something that I don't think that a lot of people realize, is that whenever you're looking at the rotations and everything like that, is that sorry, I'm reading what you guys are saying. The eyebrow thing is really kind of distracting me. Okay, yeah, that's a little bit too much for me, man. It makes me, like, self-conscious about how I'm doing things and, like, acting on stream, and it just makes me, it just distracts me. Okay. Anyway, yeah, it's I don't know. It's weird. It's McConnell. I guess it is, man. Anyway, let's see what I was gonna say. McConnell said it. Yeah, it's annoying. Anyway, doing your class's rotation is hard in classic as well. So it's not just the it's not just the rotation and, like, the boss mechanics. It's also your class's rotation too. I think that's really the main thing, man. Can you beat WoW Classic without taking damage? How do you do that?
Hey guys, it's Statics. I'll make this short because I'm still butthurt over this. So, in video games there's this idea of no hit or no damage runs, where you beat the game without at any point taking any damage.
Right.
Challenge is quite popular in games like Dark Souls and Sekiro. It has been done in Ninja Gaiden and Pokemon, Minecraft, Zelda. It's all over the place. I don't play any of these games. I play World of Warcraft Classic, so I figured, why not give it a try to do this no damage challenge in an MMO, where reaching max level and beating the game takes like 150 plus hours. So I did. WoW is a target lock game, so very little active damage evading you can do outside of staying out of range of melee mobs or walking out of fire. However, the game has a lot of damage absorption mechanics, so you can, for example, put up a mana shield or drink a nature protection potion to, you know, protect yourself from hits and lightning bolts thrown at you.
Wait, does that count if you get hit by a with like the shield? I guess like, so she's at 1 health. So if she gets hit by any actual damage, it would instantly kill her. How does she stay? You still take I think you still take damage.
Phase. There are a bunch of different classes in WoW Classic. Most of them are not really feasible for this challenge. I think hunters and warlocks can be done because they have pets that can tank damage. And mage and priest have various shield spells that allow them to protect themselves from damage.
Makes sense.
Since World of Warcraft is an MMO, we gotta also ban any kind of assistance from other players, so no trading, no grouping, nor accepting any other kind of help.
Golding.
So I tried that, and it was horrendous. First attempt, a mage, I lost at level 14, because the cat I was fighting was running too fast. So that's the kind of stuff that you lose this challenge.
That's because he's got 4 legs. You've only got 2.
Mage, fell at level 8 because of unlucky.
Yeah, these Murlocs are so stupid. This is the thing. Like, I like this back in vanilla WoW, is that in the very beginning, whenever you get to like level 6, man, you're like level 7, and you're like, dude, I own this fucking. I own this forest. I run this place. And then you go over and you have like 3 Murlocs that just beat this shit out of you as you're trying.
Hey, how's it going on TV?
Staggering your days while like 3 mobs are attacking you back to Goldshire and you just die. It's like, what up, bitch? Welcome to the game. Welcome to the fucking.
Alright, who am I missing here? Oh, he's coming right now.
That's the thing with doing this in an MMO. You don't actually know where mobs will spawn or when they will spawn because there are other players running around changing the world. So I tried 2 priests and 2 hunters. I took damage at 14 and 18 because my pet died and my spells got resisted. So
no, you're not.
The thing with doing no damage in RPG is you have a lot of random rolls.
You don't get to demote anybody. In fact, you're demoted.
With another mage, and that was the blessed run.
And for your inconvenience, you're now an officer instead of a member or a veteran.
We got our first absorption ability, which is Mana Shield.
Okay.
But Mana Shield only absorbs physical damage.
Fucking bots think they run the show.
Almost made me fail the challenge because a random dwarf applied a poison to me, which deals nature damage. You can see the thing play out here.
Okay, so he can actually take damage. It's just that if any damage is actually applied to his character. So he can absorb damage, but he can't actually take damage. He's a clicker. I mean, like, you're not going to keybind a greater nature protection potion. I mean, like, let's be honest.
Oh my. So this run was very stressful. But we made it. We went through the 20s to the 30s. We got to level 40. We eventually got our mount. We even got Tidal Charm, which is, you know, a very powerful rare trinket in the game, which actually helped us to do some quests later on because
I'm really jealous of this guy's hair, man.
A stunned target can't do damage.
Look at that. Man, fuck this dude.
But the mount again almost killed me because of falling damage.
Oh, I guess we're just gonna fight everything on the way there, huh?
And that is still damage, right? As is walking into any kind of fire source in the game.
So even taking fall damage?
These goddamn braziers in Ironforge that are around every corner. You run into them or close to them, run is over. The worst thing about most of these absorb abilities is that they last anywhere from 30 seconds to 1 minute, so you have to constantly remember to reapply them. And there were a bunch of moments in which I forgot to refresh them.
think that people really care about being.
I'm gonna watch his newest one here. Where is it? That's somebody being arrested or whatever. There we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's only two things on God's green earth that could make a man dressed in an ironic FTX hat and ironic Lehman Brothers shirt be this happy.
You're either Timothy Leary, or you're just happy because the guy got shut down. Yeah, you got a $15 million payment. Or Kevin, was it
to feel like
Kevin
Christmas
O'Leary?
has come early
Forgot his
in
name.
December.
Who cares?
Number one,
come on,
would be losing my virginity, but thank God that is not happening. Number two would be the arrest and hopeful imprisonment of Sam Bankman-Fried. As of 1 hour ago, this notorious fraudster who we've been covering on this channel for weeks, who evaporated $32 billion of value and $8 billion of customer funds missing, has been arrested in the Bahamas and is facing extradition to the United States. And if we can get him on U.S. soil, we can make him testify for his crimes and hopefully face a very, very, very serious amount of jail time for stealing and defrauding millions of customers. This happened only an hour ago, so it's a pretty fresh story, but I want to sort of go through it here now. So the indictment for what he's actually being charged with will be unsealed tomorrow. That's Tuesday.
And we saw this now.
A person close to the matter has revealed, according to this New York Times article, that the charges include wire fraud conspiracy, securities fraud conspiracy, and money laundering.
Bro, there's no way he dodges all of these. Like, this guy is done.
Got it with the quintuple whammy. And the thing is, I've read a lot of articles like this one for the past month now. Why hasn't Sam Bankman-Fried been arrested yet? Because I've been obsessed with the story, especially because he's been on a notorious PR tour for the past month, going around to every media outlet that'll have him and saying, oops, I fucked up.
Yeah.
And in every one of these
I mean, to be fair, he did fuck up.
Interviews, anytime someone asks him a hard question, it becomes very, very obvious that he committed fraud. He's basically been openly admitting.
I'm just gonna wait for him at the entrance.
On camera, on tape, which has made his lawyers furious.
Yeah, I bet.
My lawyers chewed me the fuck out for saying I fucked up. The first thing he said after that was, they said, Sam, we have only one thing to tell you. You have to promise to never, ever say you fucked up again. I told them to go fuck themselves.
What is this dialogue? This is great. I love it. Yeah.
Well, you might want to
normal
listen to
conversation
him, Sam, because it is looking extremely likely that a lot of that's going to come back to haunt you, especially the throwing Caroline Ellison, your ex-girlfriend, throwing her under the bus. Because, as we mentioned, she's been spotted in New York and is likely dropping a dime on her old ex-lover, Sam Bankman-Fried. Don't want to see that, says Dick. Yeah, and so she is not charged at all. Only Sam Bankman-Fried is named in this charge. And, again, he has been arrested
Well, he's the main guy. I mean, they'll probably get her, too, but, I mean, it's mainly about him. Bahamian officials, and is facing extradition, but is not yet in the United States soil. Lawyers were surprised at the suddenness in the news, which is pretty funny because the rest of the world is surprised at how goddamn slow it was. Yeah, really.
Oh, you're not dead yet?
The rest of the world seems very obvious this guy
you're
committed
dead.
many financial crimes, and nothing gets moved on. But I've looked more into it, so I've read a lot of articles like this one and sort of dived into differences between something like Bernie Madoff, who admitted his crimes immediately, who basically said, yeah, I'm guilty. And when the FBI showed up at his house and said, is there an innocent explanation for this? He said, no, there's not. Sam Bankman-Fried's been saying over and over again, there is an innocent explanation. I'm a goof. I'm a big, dumb goof.
Yeah, so he's going to try to ride this as long as he can, because there is a chance that he gets away with it. Now, I think that chance is vanishingly small, but it is there. And it's like, I've had a lot of 1% mount drops. I mean, I'd take the shot. I mean, like, fuck, if you're going to go to jail.
What did I not loot?
I mean, you might as well try to not go to jail. Right?
Oh,
I mean,
I remember now.
Big, curly-haired, League of Legends loving goof. And I didn't know. I didn't know that you couldn't take customer funds and punt it on crypto. And lie about it. I didn't know that.
Woman.
I didn't know you could replace all the deposits with a made-up FTT token. In fact,
Don't make me regret doing that for you.
Because as of December 9th, a few days ago, he's agreeing with this guy who says they should fire up the FTX exchange, issue a brand new FTT token, and distribute that.
Smoke? Yeah, I suppose. I just entered this instance.
That is not the
same one I did as a mage. in
of course,
vanilla.
right?
Now I'm
okay.
doing it as a tank
Well,
paladin.
maybe if we make enough, let's see, what's another game besides Monopoly? Maybe if we add enough Monopoly 2.
So you know anything about the Sam Bankman-Friedman or whatever?
About what?
Some crypto guy, I guess. I don't know. No, I was listening to it on the PC. It's not going to be on there.
I don't know.
I think he might be. I think he might be the head dude of that crypto company that did the thing. I haven't really even been following this story, honestly. He did
like Bitcoin, Dogecoin.
No, something to do with
Crypto
Bitcoin,
keys.
some kind of fraud or whatever. I don't know. Bitcoin's a fraud in general, so.
Yeah, that's oh, you're so cute.
Time to do the thing. I think that little noise I heard a little bit ago was my headset telling me it's charged. Let's see about that.
Money that we can pay back the Monopoly 1 money, and then we'll have enough Monopoly 2 money, and that way we'll still be rich. Yeah, of course.
Alright, I'm gonna reapply buffs.
That was the problem. That's why you're here to begin with. I made a lot of mistakes this year.
Jesus.
No, yeah, you
sure did.
But some of them weren't mistakes. Some of them seem very much like calculated intentional fraud. And from everything that I've read, the only reason, even though it seems late to us, the only reason the Justice Department would move so early to arrest this guy and try to extradite him to the Bahamas is that they have a paper trail. They have finally acquired some sort of paper trail proving wire fraud, securities fraud, etc. Like they have some sort of email link that shows that he was complicit, that he was aware, that he wasn't a goof, that he knew what he was doing. Because otherwise they would have actually waited longer and helped build their case, interview more people, figure something out.
That's probably true. Yeah, that's probably true. They're probably not going to go after him until they know for sure they're going to get his ass.
I'm a terrible tank.
They have pretty concrete evidence. I don't know what his argument could be at this point. The evidence is getting out there. It doesn't help that when he declared bankruptcy, FTX was turned over to John J. Ray, the former person who did the Enron bankruptcy. Never in my career have I seen such an utter failure of corporate controls at every level of an organization. From the lack of financial statements to a complete failure of any internal controls or governance whatsoever. He is testifying tomorrow, and somehow they leaked his statement. I went through it. There's a lot to say here, but basically, the main thing is there are many things unknown at this stage. Many questions remain. We know the following. First, customer assets from FTX.com were commingled with assets from Alameda Trading Platform. Again, already, that should be illegal. Second, Alameda used client funds to engage in margin trading, extremely risky debt-fueled trading. So, taking your money that you deposited in a bank to be held safely, and then punting it on incredibly risky crypto bets without your knowledge or consent. Again, illegal. And again...
Look, the thing is, like, there's a big reason why this shit is illegal. Like, and there's a reason, like, because you've got to think about how laws are formed. The way that usually most laws are done is somebody does something and it's really bad. So then everybody else goes and they're like, well, let's not have anybody do this anymore. We had this happen before. Like, this happened all the time in, like, the 1800s, the fucking 1700s. Absolutely. Because, like, we've been through this whole thing. So, like, somebody says it's decentralized. Oh, it's like, this is whatever. I mean, like, man, there's a reason why there were rules. People don't learn? No, I think people do learn. That's why they're trying to take advantage of another unregulated market.
Very unlikely that Sam Bankman-Fried didn't know this was happening in the same building that he was having sex with other people in. Very likely. I also mentioned first that the FTX group went on a spending binge in late 2021 through 2022, during which they spent $5 billion on a myriad of businesses and investments, many of which may be worth only a fraction of what they paid. They were also just idiots, okay? They also took billions of dollars of customer money and punted it on either bad business investments, buying Miami Heat naming rights, buying TSM naming rights, buying Super Bowl commercials, buying Giselle and Tom Brady and basically ruining their marriage, probably buying Kevin O'Leary, the shark, to say nice things about him. Basically, they punted money on a million bad things with no near-term or long-term plan to get that money back. No solid.
No, I actually disagree with that. I think that what they were doing was very smart. They were trying to pay people that were established, that had credibility, to use that credibility to make FTX seem like it was more authentic and legitimate. And that way, all of the people that they're talking to would, yeah, they're buying legitimacy. And once they buy enough legitimacy, then everybody's using the website, and then they can use all of their money. Yeah, it's simple.
That's a solid business. So, again, you cannot take customer money and use it for those things. It looks like he's going down. Now, the fact that he's going down leads me to my next topic, which is what I'm a little bit nervous about. Again, I am no conspiracy nut, but being a crypto billionaire, former or otherwise, is not the safest occupation nowadays.
No.
Mr. Koolander here died at 30 a few days ago. This guy Mushigan, Nikolai Mushigan, 29, died a few days ago. Yeah, Taron. So, a Russian crypto tycoon, he died in a helicopter accident. Now, again, all of these seem to have innocent explanations, but 3 of them dying within a few days of each other, all in the crypto space, is odd. And Sam Bankman-Fried was a extremely connected, heavily political donating. The money trail for all the money that he punted and distributed into the U.S. government is extensive. And so the fact that he's being arrested is amazing. And the next step that we should all keep our eye on this story and keep public pressure and keep attention on, that we want to see him testify. We want to hear more about what was going on.
I definitely want to see him testify because I can watch it for content. Yeah, absolutely. I think it'll be fucking hilarious. Yeah, almost like it's organized crime or something. Yeah, of course it is. This is what they're gonna do. Like, I mean, obviously they're gonna be cheap. Why wouldn't they cheat? It makes sense. It's Bill Clinton again? I don't know. It could be.
And who else was complicit? Because this is fraud that stinks to the top. And we don't want to see this guy end up somehow dying in jail. Okay, that is conspiracy or not. I don't want to see this guy just suddenly disappear and not get a chance to speak, and for prosecutors to get information out of him. That's the next step. That's what we're hoping to see. Again, regardless, I'm actually extremely pleased at how fast regulators have moved, given that what they had to build, the case they had to build, given the fact he was hiding in the Bahamas, given the fact that I had to go through all that. I'm actually.
I still can't believe this dude just went on so many of those like fucking Twitter spaces and just started talking. Like anything, like, listen, I can guarantee you what his lawyer said. They're like, bro, shut up. And then he's like, okay. It's like, all right, who wants to talk to me? Who wants to talk about? I gotta get something out. I gotta get something out here, right here. I gotta let people know, right? Yeah, of course.
Very happy day for me because I followed this story very closely and see this guy flout the fact that he has just ignored the law, ignored any sense of decency, ignored, you know, any protocols or of good business sense, and just jump around interview to interview. It's amazing. It's awesome to see him arrested, and I'll be following this story consistently.
What I really, the people that I really place fault in is like, yeah, SBF is just a clown, right? I mean, he's a fraudster, he's a clown, the guy's gonna go to jail and that's gonna be it. But what are these media companies doing writing puff pieces about him? Like, how is anybody taking these websites seriously ever again? It's astonishing that this happens.
On my Twitch channel, check out more and watch out for more YouTube videos. Thanks guys for watching, and let's keep an eye on it.
It's a good video. It's a great video. I'm gonna link it for you guys. This is an Atriac video. We've watched a couple of his videos. I'm not that familiar with his content, but we started watching a little bit more of it. I like his
Hello, welcome back to another...
Barney?
Last episode, we made an everlasting friend and an eternal enemy. This episode, we take a deep dive into Zul'Farrak to uncover sacred artifacts, Godzilla copyright infringement, and party members suffering.
That's actually, What's the three-headed one? That goes like... What's it called? In Godzilla? Ghidorah, yeah, of course. No, not Mothra. Ghidorah, yeah, Ghidorah. Exactly, yeah, Ghidorah. That's it. Yeah, see, I just had to make the noise. You guys knew what I was talking about. King Ghidorah.
From Dunning-Kruger syndrome. This is the tale of the carrot on a stick. Our story begins in the Shimmering Flats, a desolate expanse devoid of vegetation and most other signs of life. In the Shimmering Flats, everything is white as far as the eye can see. There is round-the-clock NASCAR, and what little civilization exists is entirely dependent on fossil fuels. Whilst the average boomer sees this place as a vision of heaven, I hate this zone. In fact, seeing it become submerged underwater during the Cataclysm trailer was, for me, the highlight of 2010.
And I lost my virginity back then.
But I digress. The Shimmer...
Okay, number one. As much as the Shimmering Flats is stupid, it is one of the best questing zones in the game. The Shimmering Flats is one of the only questing zones where there's not many annoying, weird, fucking contrived quests. It is one of the best questing zones in the entire game. Like, if you don't do Shimmering Flats whenever you're leveling up, you are an idiot. Code Cow, thank you very much for 10 get the community subs. I appreciate that very much. Thank you very much, Code Cow. Thank you.
Shimmering Flats is home to many Goblin and Gnome engineers who spend all day drinking White Monster energy and racing in dangerous makeshift
Those are White
vehicles.
Claws.
Now this is pod racing. One of the gnomes, named Whizzle Brassbolts, has a level 50 quest which reads the following. Stupid. Zul'Farrak, the trans?
Deep in Zul'Farrak, the sand troll city of Tanaris, there is a sacred pool. From that pool, the trolls summon a huge beast, Gazrilla. He's so fierce.
Wait, he's a gnome.
He's so fierce that even his scales crackle with energy. It's that energy I want to harness for my car. Bring me the electrified scale of Gazrilla.
And in exchange for my trouble, he offers a highly sought-after trinket, the carrot on a stick, which, as you know from last episode, increases mounted speed by 3%. Okay, seems simple enough, right? Just gotta go to a dungeon, kill a boss, but you are wrong. Oh, my sweet viewers, I wish I could tell you it was going to be that easy, but mounted speed comes at a cost, and if you want it, you must be prepared to pay its price. The task ahead was going to be gargantuan, and with my current level being way lower than is recommended, my chances of success were slim to none. But
I think the fact that he was even able to find a ZF group at all was amazing. Like, the fact is that unless you're a fucking mage or a warlock or a priest, nobody wants you for ZF. Like, it's honestly like, if I ever leveled up a rogue, it would be the worst experience ever. Like, or a tank, yeah, or anything.
You know me, Iron Will, Ninja Way, whatever. Fucking roll the next part.
He's a ninja.
Welcome to Lordaeron, the northern part of the Eastern Kingdoms. 3 years ago, the denizens of this beautiful land lived in peace under the alliance of Lordaeron. The elves in the north were happy, the humans in the middle were happy, the dwarves to the south were happy, and the gnomes were gnomes. And then the prince became a Death Knight and killed everyone. With his mind-controlled army of the dead, Prince Arthas marched north towards the elven city of Quel'Thalas on a mission to seize the means of production of silver light. During the battle, a certain high elf named Sylvanas, please don't ruin my character, Windrunner, told Arthas that the skulls on his armor looked, quote, a bit gay. In response to this, Arthas tore her soul from her—
No wonder he killed her. For homophobia. Arthas was the good guy.
A body and turned her into a banshee. Some would argue that this was a disproportionate reaction. After wiping out the population of northern Lordaeron, Arthas' mind control would dwindle, and he'd fuck off back to Northrend to cry about it. No longer mind controlled, all the undead who used to live in Lordaeron were like, oh, I guess we just go back to living here then? And so Lordaeron became home to the Forsaken, the no longer mind controlled undead army led by Sylvanas Windrunner, and they're all super pissed at Arthas. I'm sure they will forgive and forget.
You think we had forgotten?
I love this character. This is one of my
Did you think we had forgiven?
Never mind. But if we go back even further, Lordaeron was originally home to the forest trolls of the Armani Empire. For hundreds of years, the trolls did troll stuff, but then the elves arrived, and they knew magic. Discovering that the trolls were susceptible to fire, the elves pushed them south and established Quel'Thalas, and the trolls were pissed. But then the humans arrived, and the elves taught them magic. Discovering that the trolls were susceptible to fire, the humans pushed them east and established Lordaeron, and the trolls were pissed. Present day, the once great—
You think about that, right? The trolls just spend the entire history of WoW getting fucked. I feel like they're like one of like the indigenous peoples, and you know, like you have like the colonizers that come in. They're like, no, you can't be here anymore. And then you move down. No, you can't be here anymore either. And then somehow they're just stuck in fucking ZG or something. You know, and yeah, no wonder they're fucking pissed. RXMC, thank you much for the 5 get community subs. I appreciate that very much, man. Thank you, dude. I love you.
The Armani Empire now looks like this, reduced solely to one area, the hinterlands. And the trolls are pissed. But why did I just tell you all that? Well, remember this gnome who just so casually asked us to kill Gazrilla for electrified scales? Yeah, it turns out this Gazrilla is actually a demigod secret boss, and his summoning ritual requires you to be in possession of an enchanted mallet. How to obtain the enchanted mallet, you ask? Well, luckily for me, this troll left an ancient tablet in their will, and it details how to obtain it.
Obtain the sacred mallet from a troll keeper. Next, one must bring the sacred mallet to the altar atop the troll city of Jintha Alor. Using the sacred mallet at the altar will infuse it with power and transform it into the mallet of Zul'Farrak.
I never did the mallet of Zul'Farrak. I never did it. I was like, it's gonna take up an inventory slot, and I'll just have somebody else do it anyway, and I don't need any loot from the boss to begin with, so this is a waste of my space. Yeah, I never did that. I was like, I'm not gonna fucking go down there. And also on top of that,
I'm gonna aggro all of them.
I like that. The thing is, like, most of the quests that like, as I said, I threw away my laundry list of items that I needed for my Warlock, you know, quest line, or my Warrior quest line for the Whirlwind Axe, and I never got it because I couldn't figure out how to look it up. I was a big fucking idiot.
Okay, seems simple enough, right? Just gotta go ask the Troll Keeper for the mallet, then I go... You are wrong. The Troll Keeper in question lives in the hinterlands. The Troll Keeper in question is part of the aforementioned Amani tribe. The Troll Keeper in question is pissed. Now, I could spend the next couple years of my life working as an envoy for the Horde, easing tensions and improving relations with the Armani tribe, earning their trust over several years, and then eventually cashing in my socio-political clout points for a sacred mallet. But I don't have time for that. I just want to make mount go fast. And so I set off for the hinterlands on a mission to obtain the Mallet of Zul'Farrak, the item required to summon Gazrilla. Following the directions of the tablet, I made for the Altar of Zul, where the Mallet's Keeper would await me. Upon arriving, I find that the Mallet's Keeper, whose name can fuck off, is a level 50 elite mob.
Oh, that's not good.
And being a level 43 reanimated pile of bones, I begin to have second thoughts.
Oh no, she's level 50!
Now, you guys know me. The last thing I am is a quitter.
I'm trying not to die right now.
No way.
I'm gonna quit. But just as I turned to leave, I looked up and saw
there
a
we
familiar
go.
face,
I thought so. I was
amazed
about
by
to
the name
say.
of Meryl's, who just yesterday I had a whole adventure with, the footage for which is unfortunately lost forever due to Windows patented shutting down your computer right now. Fuck you, technology.
We have to install an update right now. Do you want to install it later or now? Later. Okay. Okay, it's later now. Let's install
What?
the update. That's basically how they do things.
Now, Meryl's wasn't here for the same reason I was, but that didn't stop them from being a total bro and helping me anyway. Together with this random warrior, we managed to take down Fuck Off and obtain the Sacred Mallet. Now, we just had to bless it. The intended way of doing this is to battle your way through the troll city of Jintha Alor, a city littered with elite mobs that increase in level as you ascend, eventually culminating in a grand battle with the leader of the tribe, Vile Priestess Hex, who is blocking your access to the altar required to bless the Sacred Mallet. However, my teammates opted for the high IQ play of running in, dying, walking back to your corpse, and repeating until you reach the summit. Being the insecure rogue player that I am,
Do you guys remember back in the fucking beta whenever we did this and I kept getting killed by those rogues? But I was actually mad there. The thing is, like, I really was. I was pissed. 99% of the time, I'm never mad. But that time, I was genuine. I was mad because I was actually more mad at McConnell. I was mad at McConnell because I knew that McConnell drawing attention to it would make them do it more. And McConnell was like, "Oh man, they killed you again, dude. I can't believe this is happening. Oh, you died again. Oh man, dude, you're so mad right now." And just like fucking, you know, getting them up and, you know, saying all this good stuff about
That's
him,
a beautiful
all this
wife.
shit. And reply back to him, I already did.
But yeah, sure, beautiful wife.
I blamed it on him that it was happening. I was more mad at McConnell than I was even at the rogues. I know it might sound ridiculous, but it's true.
My way to the top.
Got a little cocky.
Once there, we waited.
To be fair, I was doing pretty good there.
Then Meryl turned the Watchman into a sheep, and we scrambled to bless the mallet before the priestess turned back around.
Damn, that's
now,
easy.
with the mallet of Zul'Farrak in my possession, I was ready to find a group and start my dungeon experience. Because I had the Mallet of Zul'Farrak, finding a group was incredibly easy. Now, this might be largely unimpressive by the time the video releases, but having the Mallet at such a low level was a huge deal during the first week of the game. At the time of recording, level 43 was already incredibly ahead of the curve, so to have an item that was intended for level 50s and above pretty much made me royalty. Having the Mallet assured that everyone in the group would obtain their mounted speed trinket, and I was therefore sure this dungeon would be a happy, fun, great time enjoyed by all. I mean,
that didn't happen. We already know that didn't happen. So I think that's actually kind
all
of
I can tell you is quick save more often. You know what the quick save key is, right?
Something like that. It kind of makes it a little bit more exciting, and you know, it helps you get into groups more easily. I never even thought of it as like I never thought of it from that perspective, that if you have these cool items,
get to the point right before that conversation and quick save again.
Easier for you to be able to get into groups.
We're just 5 incredibly ahead of the curve, World of Warcraft added.
Quick save after every cutscene.
Not mentally stable. Surely we will get through this dungeon just fine. Me and the tank met up with the Warlock just outside the dungeon.
It's a good rule of thumb for The Witcher. There's a lot of cutscenes. Talking, etc.
We rode into Zul'Farrak and started our assault. Going against the norm, the very first pull of the dungeon was not made by the tank, but instead the Warlock. After we down the first pack, the tank respectfully asks the Warlock to allow
this Night Elf
to
spirit's
obtain
taunting me. He's like, I move faster than you.
It was a non-damaging curse.
Which is just...
The funny thing about Classic WoW is the fact that as time has gone on, players are still as fucking stupid as they used to be. They're still just as stupid as they used to be.
Hey, I get up for you.
Nothing has changed. It's incredible.
Not in the middle of cutscenes.
Still aggroing the mob, but okay. The tank then pulls the second pack, and for some reason, whilst we're still fighting it, the Warlock pulls the third. Despite the overwhelming numbers, we emerge victorious, and I'm feeling optimistic about the rest of the dungeon. If we can overcome a pull like that, this dungeon should be no sweat.
Honestly, whoever made the artwork for that should have just made like an animated series.
Long and painful.
And I just... It is at this point the tank asks the question on everyone's mind.
You guys knew?
The Warlock then despawns his DPS pet and summons his tank pet, confirming what we all suspected. But that's okay. New players are players too, and I'm sure this Warlock will learn as the dungeon progresses that the tank should be the one to pull mobs. The healer then chastises the tank for two-hand tanking, which is literally not a problem, especially not at this level. Further cementing in our heads that these two partners in crime are the worst type of moron. A moron who speaks with conviction on a subject they very clearly know nothing about. The next pull goes smoothly as the tank was able to get aggro before the Warlock. Shocking how that works. But the two warriors were very clearly still feeling the effects of the priest's last moronic idiot statement. To combat the plummeting morale at the hands of these two retards, I attempt to bolster the troops. We are doing fine and will continue to do fine. The healer then...
There it is. It's no big deal. Yeah, you just told me it's gonna be fine.
Immediately complains about going out of mana in the previous fight. You know, the one that was so tough because her boyfriend pulled the entire pack. Next, the tank tells us to follow.
Oh, I forget I can mount in here. I always forget.
To my dismay, the Warlock had not mastered the ancient art of desummoning your pet, and so everything was pulled anyway. Thank you, Voidwalker. Fortunately, we make short work of them, and the tank asks that the Warlock put his pet on passive during shortcuts to avoid
Probably
such
a smart
problems in
idea.
the future. The Warlock then tries to use what I said earlier about letting people play how they want, I was referring to the tank, as an argument to be made why he should be allowed to keep ninja pulling mobs. Further ahead, by some grace of God, we actually managed to conquer the first boss. Further ahead still, we come to the second boss, who spawns when you get too close to his cave. The warrior warns the Warlock in advance, but alas, too late. At least his Voidwalker was there to tank it briefly, am I right? The boss fight begins, and let me tell you, this boss is a real piece
This is the hardest
shit.
boss
He
in the
constantly summons these basilisks, which by design have too much health to warrant focusing, so the fight just becomes a race to nuke the main guy before you all perish miserably. It is nothing short of a miracle that we pulled through, but with the hardest boss encounter complete, and with no casualties to boot, I was confident that we could take this run to the end. We proceed to the third boss where everything goes fine. Well, I mean, the Warlock did commit suicide with Hellfire, but everything went fine. As we clear the way to the next boss fight,
Okay, I want to say, like, that has never happened to me. There has never been a time where Hellfire, I cast Hellfire, and it turned out that I was ending up like aggroing a little bit too many mobs, and I killed everybody. Right? That never has happened before.
Tank politely reiterates for the party, read Warlock, to please let him make the pulls and to not attack unless he's in the fight. Pretty reasonable, right? Just
don't tell other people how to play.
The other warrior chimes in for the first time to say he's new, and the tip...
Oh my god, let me read this chat. Just a
second.
Don't
tell other people how to play.
The other warrior...
But don't be one of those nitpicky fucks that I don't know what to tell you, that goes bananas when the pull doesn't go exactly how they want it. Just play, dude. Just play. Hey, dude. Just play, man. That's all. You just play. That's all there is, man. This is crazy. Fucking crazy. Just play.
Woman, my beer.
Rhea chimes in for the first time to say he's new, and the tips the tank is giving are actually helping him learn. And of course, the Warlock has a problem with this too, stating that the tank was displaying lame as fuck.
You're making me not want to do my Christmas present.
Wipes. No, You aren't.
We pull the fourth boss, and I try to raise morale once again. Let's just all have fun, smiley face. But when the Warlock immediately resumes crying after the fight, the polite tank's patience had come to an end.
I love being in groups where everybody hates each other. It's so tense.
I'm resorting to chef clapping here.
Mad. Like, there's one guy that's trying to calm them down. And then sometimes if I'm in a group and I don't really care about how it goes, I'm like, hey, so, what do you guys think about this Warlock? And that's the guy that's in the group.
No,
like,
come on, come
how's
on,
our
stay
DPS
with me.
so far? Is there anybody that's doing low DPS? Or just ask something incendiary that's like just open-ended, just to let them really fucking rip on each other. It's one of the best parts about being in a playing in a is getting people
This
mad.
dungeon, probably. I'm not doing the whole thing, I just need to kill like one boss.
Well, no, if you enjoy the game,
Where's the healing ward?
They're voluntarily going to play with you, then you're a piece of shit. That's basically what the difference is. Like, I agree with you, right? Like, yeah, obviously people should be able to play how they want, but whenever playing how you want comes at the expense of other people and, like, you know, wasting their time, then playing how you want no longer is a, you know, a positive thing. That's what I would say. We had our
there it is.
I have to actually, you know, play the game.
Without a further word, he posts the damage meters in chat for the last fight, revealing that not only is Baus the Warlock doing the least amount of damage out of the damage dealers, he's also being out-damaged by the tank and the healer. In fact, his pocket healer girlfriend is doing more than double his damage. Now, I'm no therapist, but I suspect being presented with the irrefutable evidence that he was fucking useless shattered through his Dunning-Kruger syndrome and induced a psychosis.
I really don't care what you think, kid.
Can we get the lock? He isn't even doing damage.
Crying face. Stop! Baus the Warlock then left the party and took his healer girlfriend with him. Baus projects onto the tank and tells him to eat a bag of dicks before being ejected from the instance. With a complete lack of self-awareness, he then starts whispering me all this bullshit about how the tank was toxic, and I tell him to take a breather. He tells me he's going to be just fine, and I totally believe him.
I think, yeah, he'll be just fine.
The last 30 minutes had been nothing short of a true test of patience, but with the end of the dungeon quite literally in view, we weren't going to give up now. We replenished our group and marched onwards to what could only be certain victory. That carrot on a stick is so close I can taste it. After surviving the pyramid gauntlet, where waves after waves of trolls attempt to murder you, we clear the 5th boss encounter, which is actually the group of people we just rescued from captivity. Not a good day for these guys. I also remind the group that I have them.
This is a walk even doing damage. Like, that's... There are so many warlocks in this game, they're awful. Like, there are warlocks, there'll be a mob that's at like 20% health, you'll have 2 warriors in a group, and the warlocks will be like, alright, let's full dot them up. Let's full dot them up. Let's get that corruption, let's get that curse of agony, let's get the fucking, let's get the siphon life. Hey, yo, let's drop an immolate on him. Okay, boys, let's make it happen. And then fucking start channeling a fucking, a shadow bolt. And by the time the shadow bolt gets halfway through the cast, the mob dies. And the warlock, you look at the damage meter, warlock's doing like 74 DPS. Like, whenever I go and I do DPS in a raid, on my warlock, average damage for me is like 1.1k. Like probably 1.1k, usually if I have a good healer for health. Somewhere around there.
Mallet of Zul'Farrak, which I must not have mentioned before because the warrior acts accordingly. With a positive spring in our step, we headed to the final encounter, and it was here that it became obvious just how much of a clown fiesta we had been putting up with before. Where Baus was a bumbling, ignorant moron, Bloodeye was a cold, calculated killer. He also didn't have his tank pet out, so good job, Bloodeye. The final boss fell, and it was time to move forward to the true goal.
There you go.
Gazrilla. For an hour, I had suffered through an agonizing dungeon experience at the hands of 2 idiots, but I was finally about to reap the rewards of my patience. Except not really at all, because we accidentally pulled 1 too many mobs on the way and wiped, and then Bloodeye immediately quit. Good job, Bloodeye. The party subsequently fell apart, and I was left carrotless and heartbroken. I'd like to tell you it gets better from here, but
We all know it doesn't. And so, yeah,
Shockers are OP.
People that leave after 1 wipe in Classic WoW, I don't get mad at them. I feel sorry for them because they're stupid. Like, think about how much time they just wasted, how much of their own time they just wasted because of this. Like, they spent like maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes going over there. And now they're just going to leave after one wipe? I can't believe it. Like, I don't feel bad for them at all. I'm just like, wow, you're stupid.
We are just getting started. 15 minutes later, I find myself invited to another group. Having the Mallet of Zul'Farrak truly makes you feel like the only dude at the party with weed. We make it to the cave, and once again, someone accidentally triggers the boss fight. We wipe. No problem, though. Everyone actually seems competent this time, and it is an easy mistake to make. After explaining how the trigger zone works, we attempt the fight again, but unfortunately eat shit because the party leader was focusing the ads instead of nuking the boss as you're meant to. We wipe again, the healer leaves, and I am removed for having a, quote, bad attitude. I don't know what I did to trigger this man's inferiority complex, but I can only deduce that he was threatened by my Chad aura. What can I say? Being an alpha peak male specimen really is a curse. 20 minutes later, I get into another group, having Mallet of Zul'Farrak, you know the drill. Fast forward to the cave, same
And I just want to say right now, whenever you're watching all of these videos, this is why people dungeon grind. This is why. Is because if you're dungeon grinding and you have a group and you just run and you farm the graveyard, there's almost nothing that can go wrong. There's no bullshit. You just run it over and over and over, and that's it. That's the only reason why people dungeon grind, is they don't have to deal with this other dumbass bullshit.
Different group, boss gets pulled, we actually come out on top, and an agility ring drops, which is a nice upgrade for me, but then the healer needs on it and wins. When confronted, he went on an insane tangent, accusing me of conspiring to sell the ring instead of using it, and so he took it to prevent such an injustice. Wow, what a...
That's Royson's ult. No, I can't believe that. Like, so, how do you even, what is the logic behind that? Well, you know, he's gonna need roll on it to sell it, so I'm gonna need roll on it to sell it. Here's how you know somebody like this is actually just doing it selfishly versus actually because they believe in it. If they really believe that, they will allow the other people that greed rolled to roll and see if those people that greed rolled outrolled their need roll, and then give it to the people that can roll separately if their roll exceeded their need roll. So there's a way that you can actually tell if somebody's doing it greedily or if somebody's doing it just because they want to you know, make a point.
Hero. Even after checking my gear and seeing that it was indeed an upgrade, he stands by his ignorant, objectively wrong statement, trying to coax the rest of the team onto his side. Thankfully for me, the rest of the party are sane, stable people, and they don't concede to his bullshit. They tell him to give me the ring, and after he does, he pulls a bunch of mobs, wipes the party, and leaves. If you're starting to see a correlation between being ahead of the curve and being a crybaby loser, I applaud your perception. Another 20 minutes.
That's probably true. I have never seen people get more butthurt or more angry or more mad than whenever something like that came up. That's very, very true.
It's passed. We refill our ranks, reset the instance, and try again. 5 minutes in, our warlock gets stuck in a wall, his pet pulls everything, and we fucking die. I close my eyes, take a deep breath, and pray to whatever God will hear me.
Please just give me one good group. I just want my carrot, please. I just want to go fast.
We return to the instance, and suddenly everything starts running smoothly. We take down packs with no problem, the first boss falls, and we're on track to make it to the second boss in record time. The tank then leaves the party, and Hearthstone's out. I call in an emergency favor from a guildmate. We summon him and head into Zul'Farrak for what I can only hope is the last time. We fight our way to the cave, and to my surprise, nobody aggroes the boss. In fact, everyone knows what the hell is going on. Towards the end of the fight, our healer succumbs to the swarming mass of basilisks, and I know it's only a short amount of time before we inevitably wipe. I last hit the boss and vanish the hell out of there as everyone around me dies screaming.
I fucking love being a rogue.
With the hardest encounter down, we breeze through the rest of the dungeon and approach the sacred pool.
This is great. Okay.
After suffering through 5 hours of quitters, blamers, and insecure warlocks, would I finally face off against Gazrilla? We get ready to pull the final pack. and the tank says he has to go. Just kidding. We steamroll the pack, and I walk up to the gong, strike it with my mallet of Zul'Farrak, and finally we summon Gazrilla. Slowly he emerges from the pool before entering into a full sprint, charging into us and knocking us airborne. Holy shit, this is a real fight. Holy shit, he's so tanky. After being knocked airborne again, I use this downtime to ingest a tasty beverage. G Fuel, 10% off with code Barney. Gazrilla puts me in a block of ice for 10 seconds, and after emerging from my icy tomb, I make the final incision. Gazrilla is defeated.
Wow. Victory achieved.
And that, my friends, is the tale of the carrot on a stick. And hey, if you like my videos, consider supporting me on my brand new Patreon. Wow, Patreon. Okay. Wow. More WoW Classic videos to come. Please like and subscribe. Okay, bye.
Have you got past that cutscene yet?
So let's talk about this. Let's talk about the fact that.
Did you get past that cutscene?
Yeah. It was a story. Watch another one. Does he have any other?
Make sure you keep quick saving.
Hey.
Did I watch this or not?
Let
me actually, you know what? Why
oh, post-processing.
I can just go ahead and search the
motion blur. Yeah, it's on.
Then let's go ahead over here.
Just turn all the blur off. Yeah. Turn that off. That's good. What? Turn sharpening to high.
So I have not seen this before.
Turn ambient occlusion up.
Basically, that's the way I know if I've actually seen a video or not.
Just click it.
Is I check to see.
Okay, go to graphics, so it doesn't look like it saved what I did before. Go to graphics. Hold on. It should have. Directly in the right spot. It's probably why your game looked really ugly. If you need to turn anything off, turn Hairworks off. Or turn shadows from ultra to high.
This one's going to be all about the most common mistakes that I've either witnessed or mistakes that I've personally made in my experience playing this game for the last decade or so. These are just the ones that came to mind quickly while brainstorming for this video. I probably could have covered more. If I have any more relevant ones, I guess I'll just follow this video up with a part 2 in the future like I plan on doing for some other videos.
To kill these guys.
By the way, so this video is for you guys about making mistakes in leveling. Obviously, I don't make mistakes in leveling, but in case there are some people that just haven't watched my stream enough and gotten good enough at it, I figured I'd just play this and show them pretty much what it takes.
Into it. Okay, so the first common mistake made while leveling is related to professions.
Okay.
If you plan on leveling mining or herbalism while leveling up, you need to make sure that you're keeping up with it regularly. It happens very often where people end up neglecting it or not necessarily going out of their way to find nodes while passing around the zone, which will cause them to outscale their gathering level range, and they'll have to end up going back to older zones in order to catch it up. This is why many people will just level up with skinning, because it levels up with you extremely effectively.
I actually might do that.
Your gold gain symbiotically as you go.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Skinning doesn't necessarily mean you're going to skip out on the second gathering profession. If you want to...
One common mistake that I do make, I saw this in chat, one common mistake that I do make while leveling is playing good. That's a big one.
Absolutely speed level, then don't take any professions at all. That's what Joanna would recommend in his leveling guide, but he's pushing for world record level times, and you should definitely level up.
I did the same thing. I never leveled professions.
Also, make sure to pick up first aid. I've seen so many people skip first aid in vanilla, or people who play healer and say, oh, I don't need first aid, I have healing spells. That's just totally wrong. Absolutely wrong. First aid is so good in classic. Everyone should have it maxed at level 60. It's an absolute must-have. The next mistake that I've noticed is certain people tend to avoid mob grinding almost entirely. In the newer versions
they call
of the
them
game,
babies.
There's ample quests. You know, more quests in a zone than you can actually finish before actually
mob grinding was what it was about.
Vanilla is entirely different. you'll end up completing an entire zone in terms of all the quests that it has to offer, and sometimes still feel underleveled, or most of the time still feel underleveled to go to that next level range
Most of the time, more like all of the
forcing you to
time.
maybe trek across the world and do quests in another zone entirely before you're ready to move on forward. So you might finish all of Duskwood, let's say, and still not be ready to step foot into Stranglethorn or Arathi. So you'll end up having to trek to Wetlands to reach that next level threshold. I would suggest mob grinding in vanilla a good amount. If you're effective at hard farming mobs without dying a million times or killing super ineffectively, this concept can be used in multiple different ways. The one thing that everyone seems to mention in their videos, and you've probably seen it a million times, is killing everything on your way to wherever you're going. I'm always killing my way through any path that I take, like killing my way through the jungle, for instance.
Sometimes I do that,
actively
sometimes I
avoid
don't.
taking safe roads or sticking on the actual
Depends.
game road for itself where no mobs are around. Rather, I'll just kill a path through to the next spot. If you've seen some of the streamers playing, you'll notice that there's kind of this little backpedaling trend that's been going on between a lot of the, especially the PvE players, where they'll be intentionally S-keying or backpedaling back while fighting a mob and taking that mob to the next mob that they plan on killing. This is pretty effective, although it's not super pretty on the eyes. It seems really cringy in a certain way, and I'd suggest strafe kiting. I covered strafe kiting in my tank guide, so check out that.
Everybody does that. Like, especially in like, so the thing is that that kind of stuff really only matters at like levels 1 to 10. Like after that, I mean, like obviously it always matters to an extent, but on those very few levels, that's whenever, the reason why I don't turn and run is because then sometimes the mobs might attack from behind.
I should have had him focus the fucking boss. That was my fault.
Turning. But anyway, like I would just say that it really only matters like maybe really like level 1 through 5 that you're like just super efficient and always dealing damage, because also you're gonna have a lot faster
and you start remembering to use the skull and everything.
Like, low levels. So I'd say above 10, like
so we
this
can
isn't
focus
really
him
as
down.
important, but before then, yeah, it does matter a lot.
Video if you want to go into more detail.
Pretty sure I was the only one targeting him.
But honestly, most of you guys should already know what's up. It's 14 years of World of Warcraft at this point, so I'm not going to go into too much detail on that. In relation to this, one thing that I would also suggest is sometimes literally just mob grinding for an entire level, or maybe even a couple levels if you have the patience for it. I always tend to do this in my level 30 to 40 level range. Especially on a new server launch. You can generate tons of gold just from mass killing beasts all the way through a zone. There's tons of examples out there, but you can easily get your regular riding mount by 40 in a couple grinded levels just by selling all of the grays and the hides that you farm off of the beast that you're killing.
Yeah, I'm actually probably going to level skinning whenever I level up. This is a really good idea.
Or I have a bunch of quests completed ready to hand in.
This is really
and I'm
smart.
3 to 4 bars away from dinging. Sometimes I'll just grind off that last little bit of the level and then continue on. Alright, so next we got dungeons. Dungeons are super fun in vanilla. They're an adventure, the whole process. Finding heroes to fight alongside you, trekking to the dungeon as a unit, getting lost in the dungeon, you know, finding your way through the actual dungeons. And dungeons aren't exactly linear in vanilla, but people very often make mistakes when it comes to doing dungeons in vanilla. This first one is honestly pretty subjective. Sometimes people just do too many dungeons while leveling up. And if
I think it's only useful to do dungeons one time. You do it with all the quests and then you're done with it. You never fucking do it again. That's always the way that I've done it in vanilla WoW. You do Dead Mines once, you complete all the quests, and then you never go back in there again. If you do it, you're just wasting your fucking time. There are very few items that you need to get. Like, maybe you do Scarlet Monastery a couple of times because it's very time efficient. The way that we're going to handle this is that whenever, you know, like, I'll be leveling probably with McConnell, we'll be doing duo leveling, and then maybe Esfand and, like, his duo will be leveling too, and then, like, maybe a few other guys randomly. We will just kind of converge and do the dungeons whenever we all get to the appropriate level. And that just kind of makes it I think it just breaks up the monotony of just leveling over and over. And I think doing the dungeons, it's kind of part of, like, if I was really trying to go for like a world first record for leveling, I'd be playing on private servers constantly, etc. Like, I think I'll probably be one of the first actual just like normal streamers to get level 60, but I'm not really going for any sort of a world first record personally.
If you want that, but if you want that to be part of your experience, and you know you want to do a bunch of dungeons, or you want to redo the same dungeon over and over again because you're trying to get a specific item, then I mean, sure, if that's how you have fun, then do it. But keep in mind that dungeons don't give great experience in vanilla, and travel time to get to certain dungeons can really eat away at your slash played, slowing your leveling pace significantly. But the most major mistake that people make in relation to dungeons while leveling up in vanilla are dungeon quests. So in the new game, it's all streamlined. It's idiot-proof in a certain sense, whatever you want to call it. Every dungeon that you enter has tons of quests at the beginning of the dungeon itself. When you zone in, there's just a bunch of quest NPCs there. You pick up all the quests, rush the dungeon, do the quest, finish, and you're done. But in Classic, it's not necessarily that simple. There's quests for most dungeons, sure, pretty much all of the dungeons that I could think of off the top of my head, but it's not necessarily clear as to where you get them. The quests are generally attained from random quest areas in surrounding zones, so the most common one, let's say, is for Dead Mines, for example. You'll get quests for it in Westfall's Sentinel Hill, and some of the quests will require doing an actual chain outside, like the Defias Brotherhood chain, before you get access to the dungeon quest. And sometimes, the quest will literally be on the other side of the world for no damn reason at all. So if you want all the quests for a dungeon, you'll have to know where to get each specific quest for the dungeon, and it might take you super far away. There's a spreadsheet.
It's very easy to do that. Like, what you do is you basically just have everybody go to a different place, right? So like for this, like, you have one person get a quest in Sentinel Hill. I think there's a quest in there might be one in Ironforge. I forgot if there's one in Ironforge for Dead Mines or not. But you have like the people in Ironforge like go get the quest there, and then everybody gets one thing, and then they all come together and share them. That's at least what we did in the beta. I thought that worked really well. 3 in Stormwind. I thought there was 5 total. So there's the is it the 3 in Stormwind, because there's killing the Foreman Thistle, whatever, getting the miners cards, the bandanas, and then the bandanas quest drops in Westfall. Then you have the Defias Brotherhood capstone quest, and then can't share. Yeah, you can. We did. What do you mean? Like, yeah, we did. Like, we shared it. Like, we did this in the game. I mean, unless they changed it. I mean, I'm not really sure what to say. But, I mean, the VODs are still up. You can see us sharing the quests. Not all quests. Well, some you can, some you can't, obviously. But I'm talking about ones that you can share. The miners cards, for example, I'm like 99% sure you can share that quest specifically. Same as the Foreman quest. Obviously, the missing diplomat quest, or not missing diplomat, whatever the fuck it was, right? The Defias Brotherhood thing. Defias Brotherhood diplomat guy, whatever the fuck he is. Defias Messenger. Yes, Defias Messenger. You can't share that one unless you're on the same part of the chain. Yeah, of course.
From the Nostalrius days that has all of the dungeon quests listed in cells and pages within the spreadsheet, and it goes through in some detail per quest on how to attain it and where to attain it. There's also probably going to be an updated version of Atlas Loot that's being developed for Classic WoW, and I'd imagine that each dungeon page will probably have a tab on the side of it where you'll be able to actually go through and see all the quests for each dungeon that you're selecting and looking at all the loot. So I would definitely suggest having an understanding of where things are before you're going in. You know, what dungeons have quest rewards that you want to be pushing for, and in general, which dungeon quests you want to prioritize or you find could be effective while leveling up before just blindly heading into classic dungeons without any understanding of how the dungeon quest system works in vanilla. Now, this one might trigger some people out there, but this is just my opinion from playing on high population fresh vanilla launches in the past. And honestly, it might not be as significant of a factor if you consider layering and its effect on the vanilla experience. This is a mistake that I've done in the past, and I've seen others make the same mistake as well, is getting caught up in Stranglethorn Vale. Stranglethorn is the first real neutral zone in a certain way. It's the first Horde/Alliance contested area with neutral quest zones and Alliance and Horde camps, and in general, it's a spot where everyone seems to always gravitate to in vanilla. This can be a double-edged sword. The questing in STD is great. There's so many quests there and tons of mobs to kill everywhere, as well as some really nice quest rewards. But on the other hand, it can be an absolute mess. Stranglethorn Vale during a fresh vanilla launch.
Big fucking truth. This is why I stopped playing on war mode. Is that I would spend literally like an hour and a half doing my world quests whenever I could do them without war mode in like 10 minutes. But I would be sitting there and be like, some dumb fucking mage thinks that he can come at me? Well, we'll fucking see about that. And so then I kill the mage. Then the mage has somebody help him. Then they kill me. I say, what do these motherfuckers think they can, they can 2v1 me? Well, I'm gonna get 2 more of my boys. Yo, who's here? And then I try to go and I fight him, right? It's 2v3. Now it's 3v4. And I'm just wasting my fucking time killing people, chasing them down, not even doing the quests.
Can be a total cluster of level 30s to 40s.
You
I
kill
mean,
the
an
mage?
absolute
BFA,
cluster.
yeah, sure.
On a PvP server,
Also, apparently my screen's bugged right now.
Battles, or you might get camped for a super long time. Or even if you're that kind of player, you might end up just distracting yourself and trying to pick a fight with every Horde or Alliance that you come across. This can slow down your leveling pace quite significantly. I'm going to end up running a Hunter in vanilla, so my plan is probably to go to Northern Stranglethorn Vale, do the big game Hunter quest line, and then most likely head north to Arathi Highlands and just mob grind and quest. Then head to Desolace in the later 30s for pretty much the same thing. I want to farm gold as I level, so I'm probably going to end up avoiding Stranglethorn Vale for the majority of it. As I know, I'll probably end up getting caught up in brawls pretty much non-stop. When I start, I can't stop.
Okay,
if someone
we're good.
kills me while I'm kiting a mob just trying to live, you know, or kills me in a scummy manner, I'm gonna end up spending 30 minutes to an hour just trying to hunt that same person down with a vendetta. So again, Stranglethorn Vale can be a double-edged sword. And I guess the point of this is, if you want to level at a strong pace, you probably don't want to get too sidetracked with world PvP outside of the odd fight. Stranglethorn Vale, if you're hyper competitive, will bring out that nature out of you and throw you into a PvP frenzy. Also, as I mentioned that I'll be gunning.
I love that video, man.
That's another thing that people tend to overlook. If you can get an idea of where good weapons are, good quest rewards that yield weapons are for each level range, try not to skip zones that'll end up giving you a big weapon upgrade as a hunter or a melee. A strong weapon is the biggest boost that you can get in vanilla, especially at lower levels. That's why warriors go so hard for that whirlwind axe at a low level. It's a huge power spike which speeds your leveling process up significantly. The next mistake that I see very often is heading into a higher level zone way too early. When mobs are significantly higher level than you are in vanilla, you're at a severe disadvantage due to how defense and weapon skills.
Like the way that I'm gonna do it, I'm just gonna always farm lower level mobs. Like warriors are gods at killing lower level mobs, right? Such as you know, like let's say like, you know, in Westfall or, you know, like rogues or something like that. But whenever you fight higher level mobs, like, you know, red level or orange level mobs or mages, then you're gonna have a bad time.
Is based on your current level in respect to your opponent's level. And also for casters, it's a similar thing with spell hit. I've done this many times when I was younger and new to World of Warcraft, but as I stated earlier, there aren't enough quests in one zone to level you through the entire level range of that zone. You're going to have to end up visiting multiple different areas within that level range in order to get yourself to that next level threshold. I used to be so enamored with Stranglethorn Vale as a zone when I was much younger, and the moment I would hit level 28, I would want to go there so bad that I wouldn't be able to fight that urge and I would just go. Even if a lot of the mobs in the mid-portion area were red to me, I would say screw it and just head to the jungle.
We did the same thing, and we fucked ourselves doing it. It was so dumb.
You're so weak against those mobs that you might be able to do the first couple quests, you know, killing baby tigers and panthers, but the moment you're done with that, the mobs will be level 33 and 34 and you're done. You've just hit a wall. It's way smarter to stay in a zone that you out-level by maybe 1 or 2 levels, or that's right at your level. If you're level 28, go to Hillsbrad Foothills till early 30s, or just mob grind in your level range to the early 30s, then head to Stranglethorn when you're ready to head there. This next one is related to travel. While you're leveling up, you want to travel to important travel points within the game if possible.
This is a meta thing, because while you're traveling, you should always hold, like, taking a shit or taking a piss until you have to get on a flight path. Like, you wait for that moment and then you do it. You hold it until you go on the flight path, and that way you're maximizing time and you're never truly AFK.
For example, Menethil Harbor in the wetlands, you know, I wouldn't skip the wetlands if you're Alliance. Same with at least going to Stranglethorn Vale and getting that Booty Bay flight path in your level 30s. You want to get these flight paths early, which will open up the map for you and facilitate your ability to travel to Kalimdor, you know, within your leveling experience.
Being more efficient,
stuck at a
generally.
higher level, having to run over there as extra travel time in order to head to opposing continents and your inevitable higher level event. This next one is super important. It can't be emphasized enough. This is a mistake made by a large amount of people, surprisingly enough, at least in my experience. And it's especially important if you plan on taking profession seriously. Make bank alts. When I start, I generally make 2 bank alts almost immediately.
Actually, I did the same thing. I didn't need a guide to tell me this. I made a bank alt. I named it El Banco. It's Spanish for bank. Then I had El Banco 2 whenever I ran out of space on El Banco 1.
For general crafting mats and cloth and things like that, and a second BOE bank. So in all, I'll send all my BOE green items towards at a higher level. Keep in mind and pay attention to the green items that you get. Sometimes it's worth vendoring them if they're worth more gold than the potential mats that you'll get from disenchanting them. Or maybe sell them on the auction house if they're statted really well. Always pay attention to the actual green and the stats on the green. You know, if they had spell power, healing power, or just really nice stats in general, it might have high value, especially wands with healing power or spell power. This next mistake is also one that I've seen very often, and it's been stated so many times by other YouTubers, and I've mentioned it in a previous video that I've made, but while leveling up, you don't want to visit your class trainer and buy every single skill upgrade every single time you go there.
I'm never going to learn any defensive tanking spells. My goal in Classic WoW is to not learn Sunder Armor. Like, I'm just not going to learn the ability. Like, the thing is that set the main tank. Okay, well, besides in tanking, like for DPS, that's fine. Or sorry, for tanking, yeah, sure. But until then, I'm just not going to learn the ability. Sunder Armor is a tanking ability. Same with Taunt. I don't want to use them. I don't want to have them on my bar. I don't want to have anything to do with them. They are purely tank abilities. I'm going to level up Mortal Strike and Whirlwind. That's all I need to worry about, boys. And I'm going to spend all the rest of my money on really expensive big swords.
Training skills is expensive in Classic, especially in the early days when you don't have much.
That's it.
Doing this will drain your gold extremely quickly. Instead, you want to specifically train the abilities that are the core to your leveling experience. For instance, as a hunter, I won't be putting too much emphasis on Demon Trap, higher ranks in Wing Clip, or little things like that. Instead, what I'm going to do is focus on Arcane Shot, Serpent Sting, and skills that are first prio when it comes to actually killing mobs effectively. This is really important for saving as much gold as you can until you hit level 40 so you can get that mount immediately.
Yep.
So the last one that
he only has 32,000
really
gold.
Quick, because again, it's
not that
something
much.
that's been stated a million times. But from level 1 to level 10, you don't incur res sickness when you resurrect at a spirit healer. So dying sometimes can be used as a pseudo hearthstone to get back to the quest hand-in or to the next spot. From level 11...
See, like, that's something that I wish I spent more time on, like, private servers doing, or, like, even on the beta doing, is knowing where to die to kind of, like, speed myself up to move from one point to another for res sick. But I never really spent a whole lot of time doing that. I know there's, like, a few of them, like, dying in the mines and you res at a Goldshire or something like that. But for the most part, it's not really as popular.
To 20, the res timer applies,
So you never
it's
played?
only 1
Well, yeah.
minute added per level. So at level 11...
Wait a minute. So, like, yeah, like, more is 0. Like, so, like, you start with 0. I've never played a private server before. So spending more time playing on a private server, you start with 0. Like, anything would be more, right? I mean...
It's going to be 1 minute debuff. At level 12, it's going to be a 2 minute debuff.
Okay.
At level 15, 5 minute, and so on and so forth, until it gets to 10 minutes at level 20. So
Chat
try to
is
gauge
just
exactly how
dumb.
much time
Really?
you're gonna need
I had no
until
idea.
You gotta get back into killing mobs again or whatever. And if it makes sense to take a 3 minute res sickness, then do it. Alright, well, that's it for this one, boys. I tried to keep this one brief and just go over some general mistakes that are made while leveling in vanilla. If this video does well, I'll probably continue to make some more leveling videos and maybe some leveling guides. So hit that like button if you want to see more. Make sure to leave a comment if you guys have any mistakes that I may have missed in this video, and potentially I'll make a part 2 and add some of them in. Subscribe for more content, of course, you know the drill, soldiers. I hope you enjoyed this one, and with that said, have a... This one's gonna be...
to beat him. It's like, oh, okay, I found the magic solution to this. I think that in another way, why old MMOs feel better.
Many long-time MMO players fondly reminisce about the days gone when MMOs were far less optimized than they are now, when the games were more of a struggle to play. The old guard complains about today's modern MMO conveniences like tutorials, fast travel, quest markers, minimaps, group finders, and the lack of need to communicate. Many say MMOs have lost the social soul they had so long ago and simply aren't as memorable.
Nice.
However, many of the modern advancements people blame...
I heard that New World's getting a lot of big updates. I'm actually thinking it might be time to come back to New World, guys. And New World's dead. If you want to shit on New World, can you at least admit that it's commendable that they're working so hard to improve the game? Think about how many games come out and like they just don't really go very well and they just give up. And then to make New World free to play with Prime, that'd be a great idea. I'd love that.
Were added as a result of players directly asking for them. Is it possible to design a game to be worse and yet in doing so actually make the player's long-term experience of it better?
Yes, I think so. I think that there are elements of friction, because that's basically what he's saying, elements of friction that do make the game more interesting. I think that a lot of those can be seen whenever you're talking about the leveling experience of Classic WoW.
Giving the player a less optimized, less immediately fun experience actually result in them remembering the game more fondly, and indeed even recommending it to players precisely because of the fact it is less optimized. The answer...
I don't agree with being... I don't think that being bad for the sake of being bad is a reason that people will continue playing the game. Yeah, I don't think that, but I do think that having some friction in games between interacting and doing certain things, it can actually make the experience better. I think an example of this is like I think the original Red Ridge Mountains in WoW is like it's a masterclass in what made MMOs great. You had like a lot of mystery. You had like at the very beginning, you just had, you know, like, oh, you're doing a few little quests. Then you're fighting the orcs, and then you get like quests, and it's like, holy shit, this is level 27 quest, and there's a bunch of mobs over there. It's like, yeah, it's not an elite quest, but there's so many mobs. I need friends. I need people to help me, right? And so it actually made it to where the player had to go and make the decision to, even though it's not an elite quest, a group quest, you got to group for it anyway.
There is both yes and no. It's a paradox of adversity within game design, and it's one of the main reasons modern MMOs feel the way they do. It's also what Blizzard was trying to get at when they said, you think you do, but you don't. So let's discuss the actual psychology behind it. As usual, a massive thank you to all the supporters on Patreon and Twitch who keep the channel going. More information on how you can support at the end. For now, let's begin. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm Josh Dreyfus. I've been making videos about MMORPG design for years, and one thing that I hear repeatedly from both old players who played the game back in the day and new players who are just discovering
you should have dropped it.
Is that older MMOs were better. Now, better is a very...
They were better for their time. For example, I think Halo 3 is an objectively better game than Halo 2. I think it's an objectively better game. But I think for its time, Halo 2 was a better game than Halo 3. Halo 2 was much more groundbreaking.
Try killing him again, I guess.
More innovative than Halo 3.
Subjective word. It's hard to define, it's different for everyone. But with so many old
games
still online, like the original EverQuest, or classic versions of modern games being released, like World of Warcraft Classic or old school RuneScape, there must be some elements of design, some choice, beyond just nostalgia. Some reason people keep going back
he's not fucking dropping
to older designed games. Over the years, I've tried to make videos explaining MMO design, breaking down design elements, comparing choices. I've covered the idea of the meta, the chosen one narrative trope, fast travel, endgame, abundance of MMOs themselves, microtransactions, graphics, level scaling, but now I think I've managed to distill it down to the simplest, most base reason. I'm going to call it the paradox of adversity within game design. It's not the catchiest title, I know, but it explains why making something better for the player in the short term can sometimes remove its ability to have a long-term impact. It's all to do with the human experience of overcoming adversity. Consider the following. If something, say a task or a challenge, is immediately easy, it will have a high number of people attempt it.
Okay, it's not 100% drop.
Because it's accessible to a greater number of
so
people.
I'm just going to ignore it.
Number of people tend to enjoy easier things. The task will see a relatively high retention rate. You could consider things like sitting on the sofa binge watching a TV show, or ordering.
Maybe I had to wait for a bot to loot the corpse or something. I don't know.
Calling off a planned meeting because it's raining and you don't want to go. It's low effort,
or because you just don't want to go. I think that I think it's not about overcoming adversity.
They're quite competent. They use,
look at something like,
I want to say they use all of their spells now, and they use them very well. They'll stun you if you're channeling. Paladins are an absolute fucking chore to kill.
I think that it's fulfillment.
They use all their abilities. They're very good. They're definitely higher than mobs.
Is not the core fulfillment that they're looking for. Does that make sense?
Alright, we don't want to run down there. We fucked that up last time.
Are very hard tasks with very high rates of immediate failure.
Oh shit.
Fewer people will even attempt it, let alone succeed. And because people don't enjoy failure, many will quit if the first few attempts don't succeed. This could be leaving the sofa to go to a gym, applying for a much harder job than you've currently got, cooking a full 3-course meal from scratch, dressing up in smart or complex clothes, or attending a meeting if the circumstances are against you and you don't want to go. It could be learning a language or training for a difficult sports event such as a triathlon.
Need some AoE, like really bad.
Reward. The paradox is the immediate reward for the low effort input is never as high or as satisfying as the delayed reward for the high input process. The intensity of the reward and the long-term value of it is directly related to the complexity and difficulty.
I was literally just about, I had my finger on the flee button, and I didn't think he was just gonna sprint down the fucking stairs.
care about the reward in the long term. You likely won't even create it.
I would probably say that's true. Yeah, it's like you probably remember more things that happened to you that were really hard to do. Right? Like whenever I think of like what are a lot of my big memories from like raiding and WoW, it's never clearing the first boss. It's clearing the last boss or killing a boss.
In fact, the only reason we stayed alive for so long there is because the bots know how to use their abilities.
To memory of either the process or the reward because it's nothing special. But if something is difficult to do, you'll likely...
The only thing that trolls me with the bots is if they have a fear or a poly.
Will have more intrinsic value to you, and the
You have to designate your target. Like if you pull 3 mobs, you have to designate who you want to attack first, and you usually do that with the raid icons, like with the skull, because the bots, if you don't do that, the bots may or may not poly or fear the one that you're trying to kill. But if you skull the one you're trying to kill, they will fear or poly a different mob.
And it's like whenever I finish them, I don't feel good about finishing them.
They're quite smart, and they actually just there's a beta update out right now that apparently makes them even better.
We place much more long-term value on the
but I haven't gotten into that yet.
Nobody wants to struggle, but everyone wants.
They do their own quests and stuff too.
Earned from struggling and succeeding.
You don't even need to. They don't even need to be in the party with you.
Right there. That's what Diablo Immortal is there for. Right there. That's why Elden Ring was so successful. Elden Ring was successful for a lot of reasons, but I think that's one of them. You're right.
Don't enjoy the process of overcoming adversity, but we do grow from it. Indeed, the moments of unplanned struggle often become some of our fondest memories. It's very important to understand that the words...
A good example of that was whenever, remember Callouts Incoming? That Mechagon run that we had? Do you remember the 8-hour Gruul run? Well, I'm not going to forget that. That was certainly not planned at all. Holy shit. Took forever.
Struggle in this context is not life-changing trauma. It's not extremely negative experiences that you wish you could remove. It means less than optimal, unexpected. It means more difficult than you originally anticipated. It's not extremely damaging. It's challenging within the context of the game.
It's a good challenge.
If you go camping with your friends and everything is absolutely fine, you'll likely have an okay trip. But if on the second night it begins to absolutely pour with rain and you discover there's a rip in the tent, you will likely hate it in the moment, but look back on it fondly, laughing with the group as you all reminisce the struggle you overcame. It's off.
I fucking hate camping.
Oh, apparently I leveled up.
I fucking hate it. The reason I would like camping if it happened
a lot harder than I wanted.
in the winter. But last time I went camping, it was like over 10 years ago. And it was sweaty in the tent. I couldn't get comfortable. It was awful.
From the moments of struggle that we look back on and smile about. We defeated the enemy and we see value in that. If you ask older MMO players some of their best memories, they'll often tell you about all the adversity they overcame. Standing selling items in the EverQuest tunnel or the Falador Bank, completing quests without guides. Phoning friends in real life to organize a raid.
Well, it's like figuring shit out too, like doing the quest without a guide. Like there's a really big factor. This is kind of what people are talking about with like the IKEA effect. It's like you put together the thing yourself, so if you feel like you have like more ownership of it. And I think that's kind of what happened with like the old quests, is whenever you actually figure it out yourself, I think that's way more fulfilling than if you just read a guide or you just follow a quest marker or something like that.
Exists in design a Goldilocks zone of player difficulty, where something is not too easy and not too hard, it's just right. You're not going to frustrate the player and prevent them from finishing the game, but when they do finish the game, they're going to feel an immense satisfaction that they have overcome a perfectly balanced challenge. So how
that's how I felt whenever I beat Sekiro. That's how I felt whenever I beat Elden Ring. I felt good about overcoming the challenge. I felt good. It's like, I fucking did this. I succeeded. I win.
It was back to MMORPGs. Well, remember when Blizzard told you think you do,
but you don't?
But you don't.
I've heard of that.
And by the way, you don't want to do that either. You think you do.
I wonder how many times I've seen this.
remember when you had to like spam cities and say need a tank, need a tank, need a tank during the Burning Crusade days? You don't remember that because now you just push a button that says go to the dungeon. You don't want to do that.
Here's what they actually meant. It's two elements of human psychology combining. The abundance of choice, meaning we don't stick at one thing.
Well, I think that like the difficulty and the adversity, I think players don't enjoy whenever that difficulty and adversity comes in an artificial way. Where it's like, oh, we have to walk all the way to this dungeon. Or, oh, if we die, we lose something that we have to go back and do the whole thing over again. I think that's the kind of difficulty. It's like New World, I think, is a complete fucking case study in that. Is that a lot of the difficulty and adversity that New World had was entirely artificial. It was the difficulty of traveling, the difficulty of moving materials around. It was not something that was really hard because it was challenging. It was hard because it was designed that way.
When it gets challenging and can easily switch, and the value we gain from overcoming a challenge. Many years ago, there weren't as many MMOs, so you have a relatively captured audience. If you didn't like one game, you could go to another, but you'd very quickly cycle through all possible games. The player base didn't have great variety, and a lot of these MMOs were difficult. The players would face adversity in all games, such as no group finders, meaning you had to talk to people, and creating a group could take a while. No quest markers on the minimap, or minimaps themselves, or even in your journal, so you had to write down NPCs' names and locations. No markers.
Yeah, it was hard. Like, I mean, I remember back in the day, my mom and I, we played King's Quest, and remember that one part in King's Quest where you went out into the desert? Well, we actually made like a grid, and we tried to map out the desert in King's Quest. Like, that shit was like from way, way back in the day. And like, I still have the grid. I still have the map. I think it's in the garage.
Boards or global trading systems, so it was player-to-player trade only. No tutorial, meaning you were placed directly into the world and you relied on the community to help you. And many games came on physical CDs and took hours to.
I remember me and Zach Mikorivi, we were actually sitting out there asking what LFG meant in WoW, and we were like, "What is this?" And everybody thought we were trolling, but we actually had no idea what it was.
Stall, with the process often going wrong. This isn't the game itself, but it's still part of an adversity experience. Adversity means a difficult or unpleasant situation, and overcoming it is a good feeling. Now, the adversity in a game doesn't just need to be the boss design or the gameplay. It can be the meta elements, such as having to play a game without a guide, being unable to switch servers and play with your friends, corpse runs, experience depth, almost cryptic levels of description for both quest guides and item descriptions. Older games had a lot of adversity within them. And as we know, while people like the sense of accomplishment which comes with overcoming adversity, they don't always like adversity in the moment. People quit difficulty.
I actually think that I don't think that a lot. I think if you brought out a game like this again, that like made you lose experience whenever you die, and you know, everything takes forever and there's no quest helper for it, I think that game would just die. I don't think people would play it. I don't think they'd waste their time on it. I actually do think that a lot of players have just moved past that. They don't want to deal with that. It's annoying to them. I think that right now,
there are a lot of bad
players
polls, quite
want
frankly.
diversity that is not an outcome of like bad design. They want like actual real adversity.
Things while they're
Like
still
a hard
in the
fight
difficult
to do.
bit.
Does
With
that make
older
sense?
MMOs, this wasn't a major problem for player retention because the players simply didn't have many other places to go. The end result was a hemmed-in.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like if you quit WoW, it's like, okay, now what are you gonna do? Yeah, what are you gonna do now, idiot? Yeah, all right, that's what I thought. Come on back, let's go.
Player base with a sparse selection of MMOs, all of which had heavy amounts of adversity, and your choice was overcome it or stop playing. And if you stopped playing, then you simply stopped caring. And if you did overcome it, you felt intense personal pride. But as more MMOs were made and player choice increased, the designers saw both opportunities and issues. If they made the player face too much adversity, the players wouldn't push on because they had no other choice. They would leave because now they did have choice. And this put designers into a strange position. They needed to make the system...
people lose interest. That's one of the worst things is like, that's kind of what I said. I was like, I thought that like Margit was too hard of a first boss in Elden Ring because I thought he would push players to, instead of trying to overcome him, they would just stop playing. That's what I was worried about. So I do think there's a line to it.
Players would experience immediately very easy to prevent the players leaving, but in doing so, they were reducing the potential long-term connection the player would have to that system because no one remembers the easy accomplishments. Take the group finder. Without it, players are forced to talk and communicate and connect. Bonds will form, friendships, rivalries. You have to time your gameplay sessions to your guild. The act of forming the group becomes a satisfying ritual itself, and when the group is formed, it will likely stick together because the process of forming another is difficult.
That was the Scarlet Monastery Alliance experience. If you were trying to level and play the game, and you got to Scarlet Monastery, and there was nobody else there, and somebody in your group sucked, it was actually faster to teach that person how to play the game than get somebody new. That's how bad it was. Yes, it was actually faster. You had to, like, take this person, like, okay, here's what threat is. Like, all right, didn't you have to use a shield? Okay, all right, let's do that. Yeah, the Western Plaguelands run, oh my god, it was brutal. So good design. I think that players nowadays, if you had that in a game again, I think this is really the best way to look at it, is if you had a new game come out that had a functionality like that, what would players do? Because in Classic WoW, what did they do? Well, they just had summoning warlocks, and that problem was completely removed. Because there was just a bunch of people there, and you could easily find somebody, and you just had to pay 3 gold for a summon. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, people would quit. Yeah, and like, this is just what happens. I think that the trying to find like these points of like, what's like really the word for this, like these like points where it's like, oh man, like this is a really hard challenge to overcome. I think that if the game ever engineers these things intentionally, it always is bad. And I think that New World tried to do that. New World tried to engineer friction. And so did Shadowlands with the conduits and like the covenants and everything. They tried to engineer friction. Friction is what happens whenever people try to overcome game systems. It should not happen whenever the game systems are designed to create the friction itself.
The process of forming the group is the adversity, and the feeling of having formed one is now substantial. But then the group finder comes in to remove the adversity of forming the group, and in doing so also removes the feeling of reward of forming it. It's positive for players with very little time, but negative for players who value the process of making the group. The lack of quest markers on your minimap, or indeed the lack of a detailed map at all, or the lack of fast travel, means you now faced adversity of talking to every NPC, finding a quest, memorizing the world, learning the lay of the land, or becoming friends with a class who could teleport you around. The act of exploring and progressing was the adversity. That was the challenge. It wasn't easy, but for those who could do it, it was fulfilling. Then the minimaps, teleport spells, fast travel, and icons and quest helpers and auto-run came along because players were leaving the game before even finding the quests due to the difficulty of the process.
Well, yeah, because people don't want to... The thing is, people don't want to play a game and feel like they're wasting their time. And I think that's what happens. Is it whenever people are trying to play a game and they're just looking around trying to figure out what to do, that's what the problem is. And I think that like Margit actually is a good example of this not being the case. Because basically, Elden Ring, what they do is they say, you have to kill this guy. And we don't care how you do it, but you have to do it. So what they do is like you automatically know what you're supposed to do at the very beginning of the game. So then everything you do around that is in service of that goal. Do you see what I'm saying? You don't? Yeah, but you kind of do. That's what a new player is going to think, is that you have to kill them. So it's important to have players know what they're supposed to do, but not necessarily spoon-feed them every step in the process of getting there.
Had to be made easier to increase player retention, or the players would leave for a game which was doing it. Again, in doing so, you are removing the adversity of learning the land at the expense of the player's long-term connection to the land. Most players simply don't have a very long attention span, or a great deal of patience to deal with failure.
After that, warm up the chili.
Systems. So game designers
Well, I think that time-consuming systems is really what people don't have patience for. I think people can deal with failure. Absolutely, people can deal with failure. 100% people can deal with failure. People will sit there and wipe on a boss forever, but what people don't like, I think, is whenever a system is designed to consume your time. Whenever it's like, oh, you've got to run all the way back to your corpse every time that you want to do a fight in WoW. It's like, oh, you have to run all the way back to the boss for Blue Smelter Demon or Sir Alone in Dark Souls 2. Like, these are the things that players don't like, because I think that for a lot of people, including myself, I view this as artificial difficulty. This is just like basically a time dilation mechanism that makes it take longer for me to achieve my goal. I don't like it. It's not fun. It's just annoying. Spoiled by other games? Well, it's not necessarily spoiled. It's just that I want to have the challenge in the game be around the challenge in the game, not the challenge to play the game.
To remove any and all roadblocks to failure, and this became a double-edged sword because they were now taking the process of adversity and resulting satisfaction and replacing it with a mundane, easy process and no emotional reward.
Yeah.
This paradox of adversity can be applied to lots of MMORPG design elements. There used to be fewer MMOs, so players had less choice, meaning you could make your game more difficult. You could add in more adversity, whether that's the difficulty of the enemies, the quests, or even understanding the systems the game is made up of. Players would have to conquer them, and so be given the reward for conquering them.
I think that one thing with adversity, with games, is that, in my opinion, adversity is best whenever you give the player the option to use different tools to overcome the adversity. So, for example, like in Vampire Survivors, you can use garlic, you can use axes. Like, there's 15 different combos of weapons that you can use.
I think it's the Mystic Ward that has Paladin trainer. Could be wrong.
Right? You can use whatever you want. And basically, like, I look at it like this. A good game is a game that says you have to get the number 4. And you don't have to only use 2 plus 2. You can if you want. You can use 3 plus 1, 4 plus 0, 5 plus -1. You can do 10 minus 6, and you can get 4. The only thing that you have to do is get to 4. That's it. And I think that's why games like Elden Ring, games like Path of Exile, games like Vampire Survivors, games like Old WoW are so successful and so well loved. Because players found their own unique solutions for solving the problem.
I don't need that.
Which makes that overcoming of the problem personal, and it gives them more ownership of it. Whereas, like, whenever you're fighting a boss, a bad example of this, in my opinion, is Yorm the Giant in Dark Souls 3. Yorm the Giant, if you're not doing, like an overpowered magic build, you pretty much need the storm weapon to kill him, right? Like, you pretty much do. So it's like, as soon as you figure that out, it's like, oh, okay, so I just use this. It's like, like, I just need to find rock and he's scissors, or I need to find paper and he's the rock, right? So as soon as you find that, it's solved. But there aren't really a lot of other solutions. I like it whenever there are a bunch of different solutions and you can choose which one you want to go with in a game. Yeah, it's not satisfying to beat him. It's like, oh, okay, I found the magic solution to this. I think that in another way, it was not satisfying as much to beat Rykard either in Elden Ring. Because as soon as you realized that you just had to use the polearm, the boss died pretty fast. It was one of the coolest looking bosses and best boss fights in the game, but it wasn't really that impressive. You just figured it out and that was it. So yeah, it's you can get to the number 4 by doing anything. That is my best metaphor for how video games should go about approaching difficulty.
Ironically now, if something is too difficult, players
Woman.
will leave and go to another MMO because there is so
Gonna
much
heat it
choice.
up.
I don't think difficulty
Right
is,
now.
is the word. I think it's tediousness and time-consuming systems that exist for the sake of consuming time. That's why I think a lot of people quit. Not difficulty.
Incredibly ironic that the design which sets up satisfaction, adversity, is also the design which drives players away. In short, if you fill your MMO with player adversity, systems which the player must overcome, it will feel incredibly satisfying when a player advances through it, but it is also far more likely the average player will quit before reaching that satisfaction, because the process is difficult. And if you fill your game with easy systems which remove adversity, it is now much more likely that players will stick around and finish your game, but also they will feel very little connection to it because they never had to overcome adversity to get there. Difficult experience means less immediate fun, but a stronger long-term appreciation of it. An easy experience means more immediate fun, but a weak...
Bro, it's just so sad to watch the free-to-play POV, man. It's so fucking sad.
Weaker long-term appreciation of it. You only need to look at the modern-day video game difficulty mythos to see how we as players value overcoming adversity. The Pandaren who leveled to maximum without leaving the starting
Double
zone.
agent.
Swampletics taking on the Theatre of Blood while locked entirely inside Mauritania. Let Me Solo Her, killing Melania wearing only a pot on his head. The Happy Hob, performing no-hit runs of the Soulsborne games, sometimes consecutively. Rendy achieving the level 3 Fire Cape in old-school RuneScape. Finishing the Mario games without collecting any coins. We value and respect those who overcome adversity in games. And if that player is us, we end up valuing and respecting ourselves. So the reason many players have fond memories of older MMOs and will tell new players that older games are better is because they contained a lot more adversity, and playing them demanded you overcome it, giving you as a player that deep sense of satisfaction which comes with doing that. They may not be fun in the moment, but they are infinitely more satisfying.
It's common knowledge that ads are louder than anything else you could have running on your computer.
I would absolutely agree with that. It's like whenever I go back and I think of
at all times
the moments in time that I was like, man.
Like you could be watching a really long YouTube video and you could start falling asleep, right? Getting tired. And you switch to another YouTube video and it will just be like someone literally yelling Clorox.
Figure it out or to get it to work
literally.
Or something like that. Yeah, I think so. It's like you guys have probably had that same situation.
Or progressive
so if a choice is
yelling it.
Way in the game, then why do games do sex almost force players' choice in which way they sell so badly? I don't know what that game is, so I haven't really played it before. Yeah, I have no idea. We've mauled it. Yeah, it's like there are some things that, again, like
by the way,
I do absolutely think
I'm going to turn this quest in.
I think adversity for adversity's sake is like,
and then I'm gonna get off.
It's like you're view botting, right?
So
like there's a lot
I'll go ahead and keep streaming until I do that.
A lot of people like looking at
normally I don't, but I will now. Get a good look at, you know, the bots and stuff because they're so fascinating.
Whenever you add in adversity to content and there's no real like nuance to that adversity, there's no reason it exists other than the fact that it exists, then it doesn't feel good. It's like in New World, whenever you had a quest in town and you had to go talk to some guy or kill some bear that's on the other side of the map, and then after you killed the bear, you had to run all the way back to town. Well, fuck, man. That just took 30 minutes.
As much adversity as they can because that improves the early to mid-game experience. The irony, of course, is you will retain more players, but you won't be generating those very human, very intense, very memorable experiences that come with overcoming an adverse system. It's why killing a boss after 100 attempts feels better than killing the boss after 1 attempt. You have achieved something difficult. The irony, of course, is that most players won't stick around for 100 attempts. They will declare it too difficult and move on to a different game.
Well, you have to hook them into it, right? So you make it to where the first boss is easy. It's the same as what Blizzard does with microtransactions. Like, if the first pack that they give you is only a 200% bonus and it's $39, they're not going to do it. The way they do it is that, like, by the time that, let's say, like, what's the first wall in Dark Souls 1? Probably Capra Demon. That's what I would assume most people hit the wall on. So whenever you're fighting the Asylum Demon, he's pretty fucking easy. Whenever you're fighting the Taurus Demon, he's also pretty fucking easy. Gargoyles, yeah. But, like, Gargoyles are a little bit harder than Taurus Demon, but Capra Demon is really hard. So by the time that you get to Capra Demon, you've probably already played the game for at least 5 to 8 hours at this point. I'm talking about, like, first playthrough, you know, and you're not really looking everything up and, like, min-maxing, right? So, like, you probably played the game 5 to 8 hours. So at that point, you are invested into actually trying to figure out how to play the game. But if you give somebody one of those really, really hard challenges right at the beginning, you are going to lose a lot of people because they haven't had time to gain the investment and the fulfillment that they would receive from clearing the boss. You know, like, like Ornstein and Smo. By the time that you get to Ornstein and Smo, you've played this game for 20 hours, 30 hours at this point, probably. So you're ready, you're invested, you're here to win. And that's what the most important thing is that you want to make sure that you invest people into the game before you hit them with those huge challenges.
Many players ask for easy routes to be added because they focus on the gameplay experience of right now more than the long-term experience and satisfaction gained by conquering a challenge. The skill in games design is to find that Goldilocks zone, where a game is challenging and rewarding while not being frustrating to the point of making a player quit. Older MMOs had much less competition. Players couldn't just leave for another game at a moment's notice, and even if they did, it would be just as difficult. So that Goldilocks zone was much broader for older MMOs.
I think that it's that's true. People will leave for a game and play another one, but I think people will come back.
It's fine. I overpaid for the flight path, so
I've uninstalled and reinstalled Path of Exile 3 times.
I was just playing vanilla for a while there, so bear with me.
Like,
Mud Sprocket doesn't exist in vanilla.
And I've come back and I've reinstalled it 3 times in one night. Okay, so, like, it's kind of weird. It was. It's embarrassing to even say that, but it's fucking true. I did that. And it's just because I ended the game, and I was like, well, yeah, I can go play Diablo 3, but, you know, like, so I could play WoW again, but I was bored of playing WoW. So it's like, well, fuck, I've got to go back and play this game. And it's like there's something about it that, like, you want to continue to overcome the challenge. Like, for example, whenever I played, like, Dark Souls 2, whenever I quit the game, like, I beat it once, right? But whenever I played it again, there was never, like, this nagging, like, desire to complete it. There wasn't, like, whenever I finished the game and I said, I'm done playing this, I never felt like, oh, man, I want to come back and play this again. No, I was like, ah, fuck this. This game sucks. I don't want to play it. That was it.
Blizzard said, you think you do but you don't, what they meant was they believed a modern-day MMO player base would quit classic WoW due to the adversity in the game's design, the lack of group finder and the lack of quest giver's location on the minimap, before they were able to reach the satisfying...
The good thing, though, is that players solved all those problems. To be fair, right? Like, players solved the problem of not being able to get people to Scarlet Monastery by everybody having Warlock alts that you would just pay gold to summon people at. And then people solved the problem of Group Finder with things like Discord and also with add-ons. Like, and then they also solved the leveling problem by buying mage boosts. So Blizzard, in a lot of ways, was right. Players solved this problem.
Level of WoW Classic and value the experience that overcoming the adversity gave them. Modern Blizzard design seems to be remove all adversity at the expense of all long-term satisfaction. So the next time you hear an older MMO player saying they want old-style MMOs back, what they likely mean is, while they may not remember the less fun process of playing the game, they miss the end feeling of overcoming adversity that the game gave them. But what do you...
I feel like there's also a lot of MMO players out there that they just wish they were 16 again. They wish they could just sit down and play a game and not have any care in the world. I think that's absolutely a factor too. I think that's a massive fucking